The new chapter opens with Raijin delivering a critical strike, completely destroying the Desert Marrow's gravity control system. The system alert sounds, confirming the anti-gravity function has ceased. The combat team immediately reacts. Krim shouts orders for the squad to advance as they see an escape route open in the tunnel. Determination and relief shine on everyone's faces. Finally, they have taken down the monster's entire defense mechanism. The battle may not be over yet, but hope is clearly visible ahead. Desert Marrow frantically charges toward the supply station, dragging a roaring flood with it. The system announces that the anti-gravity function is completely disabled, but instead of stopping, the monster keeps advancing. A member panics and realizes, "We're too late." Meanwhile, Raijin yells that all anti-grav devices have been destroyed, worry evident on the team's faces. "Something definitely about to happen," he exclaims. The situation is spiraling beyond expectations, and everyone senses an imminent threat about to erupt. Desert Marrow begins to malfunction severely. The core cooling system fails, unable to replenish coolant, and the core temperature exceeds safe limits. In a panic, it switches to emergency air cooling mode. At that very moment, Raijin's team has been waiting. There it is, its weak spot. Their eyes gleam with determination, ready to strike the decisive blow. The core wings have opened, the target is exposed. The combat team wastes no time. Go for the crit. Strike directly at the weak point before it closes. In the critical moment, everyone fires simultaneously, pouring all their strength into a finishing blow. They know time is limited, and this opportunity comes only once. The secret sword Kakano move is unleashed decisively, tearing through the air and striking straight at Desert Marrow's exposed core. But as the mist clears, the wound is only a scratch. The white-haired girl grits her teeth. It's tough. The enemy is incredibly resilient. The HP bar drops only slightly. The teammates behind are helpless. One lacks skill points, another is inexperienced with sniper rifles. The power gap is clear, and the battle is far from over. Desert Marrow starts emitting strange noises from its core after being hit. A teammate rushes over, exclaiming, "Shit, I'm late to the party," upon realizing they were knocked out of position. Meanwhile, the tied-up female photographer still insists on being untied to take pictures, irritating the group who are busy fighting. But something strange happens. A massive energy cage suddenly envelops Desert Marrow, reflecting the surrounding space. The counterattack is about to begin. Desert Marrow suddenly counterattacks with a powerful knockback strike, pushing the team back before they can finish the fight. In the chaos, Raijin falls and Crimson is thrown far away. What seemed like a quick victory now turns critical. While a member hurriedly administers healing medicine to Raijin, a system alert sounds. Replacement arms are now arriving from the hangar. Clear signal that Desert Marrow still has counterattack capabilities. Time is running out and they must finish it immediately. Desert Marrow begins an astonishing self-repair process as replacement arms are installed by an automated sealing system. Everyone panics as the boss's HP bar, once down to half, nearly fully recovers. Alerts sound repeatedly. Attachment complete. Now synchronizing arm control systems. And all personnel, please stand back. Not only does this render their recent attack futile, but the system also hints that the boss may possess multiple weapon types. The team's stunned expressions clearly show they are back to square one or worse. The rapidly flooding room causes confusion among the group. Despite having destroyed all anti-gravity devices, Desert Marrow can still swim freely thanks to the rising water levels. An alert sounds, instructing everyone to move to a safe zone, while the characters hurriedly prepare to escape. Some suggest immediate retreat, others refuse to give up after all their efforts. However, the reality is clear. If the boss no longer needs to control the water to move, the entire team faces a completely disadvantageous situation. Desert Marrow gradually stabilizes its system. As the cooling system returns to normal operation and the core is protected, Raijin's team is forced to temporarily retreat. On the lifeboat, they silently watch the boss steadily recover, helplessly seeing victory slip away. With no other options, the best they can do now is withdraw to regroup and prepare for the next decisive battle. While Desert Marrow ignores the room containing the warrior team, the squad quickly discusses their final strategy. Although the boss has restored both arms and the energy core has returned to position, they understand that normal damage is useless. Only a critical strike to the core has a chance to defeat it. With only 4 healing potions and 1 recovery turn left, time is running out. With no other options, they decide to bet everything on a single critical hit, a finishing blow. The lunch served leaves the group stunned. Hiro can't hide his surprise. Ooh, look at this, definitely the most expensive package. Before them is a fish dish presented as lavishly as a royal feast. He mutters, I didn't expect lunch to be this extravagant. But while Hiro is still savoring the feeling of being a gourmet diner in space, Mimi freezes. She chokes up, staring at the dish, repeating, That is. Hiro turns to her, worriedly asking, Mimi, what's wrong? The cheerful atmosphere suddenly stalls. This luxurious meal, after all, has touched some memory or trauma for her. The room is about to flood, and the warrior team understands that to defeat Desert Marrow, they need to drain the water to expose its cooling core. However, breaking the walls to drain the water is impossible. Fortunately, someone in the group recalls that the flood system can be remotely controlled. If they find the control station, they can activate the drainage mode. Still, the risk of Desert Marrow overriding the drainage command is very high, and while waiting for the water to recede, dodging attacks from both its arms in the confined space is no easy task. Time is their greatest enemy now. The whole team faces a dilemma trying to find a way to defeat Desert Marrow under unfavorable conditions. An unrealistic idea is proposed, causing hesitation among everyone. Then the platinum-haired girl smiles knowingly, suggesting that if they play a little dirty, it might be possible. She reminds two teammates that they have just accumulated enough weapon proficiency points. This is the key to their daring plan ahead. Though everyone is reluctant, her words ignite their last spark of hope. The entire team is ready to enter the final battle. Knowing that from this point on, the fight will depend on both luck and courage, they still step forward united. The leader commands firmly, Operation start! The members, though nervous, maintain their resolve. In each person's eyes, there is no hesitation, because now there is no turning back. A life-or-death showdown awaits them ahead. 5 minutes have passed since the campaign began. The curly-haired girl hurried down the metal corridor, carrying equipment no one dared believe was capable of extracting the monster's core. The plan they bet on was truly insane. Even she only joined to document the battle. Yet worry lingered in her heart. Is she still alive? The one bearing the heaviest responsibility was none other than that girl, alone in the eye of the storm. Alone amid the rising waters, the little girl silently braced herself as bait. Relentless attacks from the Desert Marrow made her legs tremble, her breath quicken, and her eyes widen in fear. Yet she did not turn to flee. I have to hold it off until everyone's ready. Her will burned brighter than her fear. In that moment, she was no longer weak, she was a warrior carrying the team's hope. While Lycoris was still evading alone in the swirling waters, her teammates couldn't hide their anxiety. Krim hadn't completed the mission, and time was running out. She's dodging well, but this is way too reckless. A teammate's uneasy voice rang out. Underwater, Krim silently approached the target, knowing that just one more delay would mean the end. Hurry up, Krim, or all our efforts will go up in smoke. Amid the chaos, Lycoris's gaze held firm faith. If only for one more second, she would stay for the team. Lycoris desperately continued to distract the Desert Marrow, but a single shock threw her off balance and sent her flying amid the churning waters. She screamed in pain, "My leg!" In the chaotic moment, her body was swept away like a leaf in a storm. She still reached out toward the recovery device, shouting, "Hurry, heal my leg!" Despite severe injury, her eyes never wavered. She knew that if she fell here, the whole team would lose their chance. Though her body was exhausted and tears mixed with the swirling water, Lycoris still looked straight ahead. She thought she couldn't make it, then a voice echoed. "Number 1 and number 2 are ready," followed by, "Number 3 and 4 too." Her eyes lit up. She let out a trembling breath, then smiled softly. "We did it." In the direst moment, her teammates had finished preparing just in time. A new hope began to flicker from the abyss. As the team discussed how to tightly bind the Desert Marrow, a bold plan was proposed, to use Lycoris as bait. Though everyone was uneasy about the idea, they knew well, the monster must not discover the underwater operation. In the deep water, another figure, wearing diving goggles, surfaced and shouted, "Ragin, number 5 is ready." At the same time, binding devices were quietly secured. Step by step, the daring plan took shape beneath the rolling waves and the determined eyes of those risking their lives. Lycoris had excellently fulfilled her role as bait. She not only survived the fierce attack, but also kept the Desert Marrow completely unaware of the plan unfolding underwater. As she gasped for breath yet smiled with relief, her teammates praised her without reservation. "You're brave!" But now the bait's role was over. Another stepped into position, confidently declaring, "Our turn now." And amid the raging whirlpool, the cable was pulled taut, marking the start of the next phase, decisive and irreversible. The cable net finally took effect. When the desert marrow began to sense the threat, it was too late. The cables had already wrapped tightly around its body. Rajan shouted orders. "Krim, more cables." From below, Lycoris's eyes shone brightly, her voice choked with amazement. "Amazing! The plan is really working." In that moment, the daring strategy built on courage and perfect coordination had begun to succeed. It was no longer a lone fight, but a full-scale assault, where everyone played a part in turning the tide. Just as the high-pressure water jet from the desert marrow aimed to sever the cable system, an unexpected counterattack was launched. Not on MY watch. In a moment hanging by a thread, the grenade launcher skill freezing shot was activated. A precise shot froze the monster's arm, instantly interrupting its counterattack. The situation was salvaged. The team had anticipated this scenario and was ready to strike back. The commander quickly ordered, "Roper, if you have any skill points left, pick a control skill now. This is still the final boss." Meanwhile, the others couldn't help but admire the thorough preparation. Of course, we had countermeasures ready. The battle was no longer about luck, but intelligence, coordination, and courage facing the monster. The binding skill lasted only briefly. "Lycoris!" A shout rang out as the ice began to crack, warning that time was running out. Meanwhile, the last cables were being hooked tightly onto the desert marrow's arm. The race against time was reaching a critical point. On the other side, the figure approaching the final control panel gasped. "Ah, here it is, the terminal." But in her mind echoed a cold, sarcastic thought. "A plan that collapses completely if one person fails. What kind of plan is that?" The reporter quietly inserted the key into the control panel, sighing with irony. "This strategy relies way too much on dumb luck. No one could write a combat manual like this." But despite her constant grumbling, she completed her task. "Use the key to drain the water. Mission complete." Meanwhile, a shout came from underwater. "Camera girl, if you found it, activate it." And the cold response was a button press. Yeah. The indicator light turned on, the system began beeping, and the message appeared. "Water drainage activating." The water level was dropping rapidly, and the announcement speakers blared repeatedly. "Water drainage has begun in this area. Please remain in the safe zone and follow instructions." Amid the rushing water, the combat team shouted, "It's working!" Repeat, "It's working!" The tension in the air turned to hope as they saw the cables slowly tightening around the desert marrow's body. "Look, the cables are tightening even more under their own weight." Someone exhaled in relief. Phew! The battle had turned. The massive desert marrow hung suspended in midair, cables tightening around its body like a hooked fish, glittering under the blazing red warning lights. "Now we've caught it, but how do we cook it?" A joking voice sounded, though the tension remained high. "Instead of calling it hanging fish, should we call it hanging desert mermaid?" Meanwhile, the warning system kept sending signals. "Core temperature exceeding safe limits. Cooling system failure. Unable to replenish coolant. Activating air cooling mode." "Emergency system activated." Someone shouted, "The crane is screaming. This is our last chance." The match entered its decisive moment, with all hope resting on the final strike. Suddenly, the warning system blared. "Notice. Control authority overridden. Current water drainage process will be halted." On the control screen, indicators automatically changed, causing camera girl to shout in panic. "The terminal is running commands on its own." Immediately, everyone understood what had happened. "I knew it. It canceled the command." Rajan yelled angrily while someone beside him urged, "Rajan, hurry." But the only reply was a harsh growl. "I know." His cold eyes revealed a determination to fight to the end. "Too late now, you fool." The dramatic closing line confirmed. Time was up, and every move was a matter of life and death. "Let's go, a direct hit." Lycoris's shout echoed, initiating the final attack. While the giant pile bunker gun drilled deep into the enemy's core with concentrated energy, a large breach was created, but it hadn't yet pierced through. "Shit, this thing is tough," Rajan gritted his teeth. But immediately he laughed upon seeing the effect. "CRIM, your gamble was right on the money." Krim couldn't hide her astonishment mixed with satisfaction. "I knew it." After all, this dungeon was zombie-themed, because the theme wasn't about machinery, but immortality, a surprising reversal between form and essence. "It seemed weird how the theming flipped over to robots," the bright-haired girl concluded, both confirming her intuition and ready for the finishing move. Inside the massive iron armor was nothing but a mechanized corpse, ex-boss, Cadaveroid Prime. It wasn't a machine, but a cadaveroid, a corpse transformed into a robot. "A corpse turned into an automaton," a voice of shocked realization echoed. The truth gradually emerged. The desert marrow had been dead all along. What was fighting was a dragon corpse controlled by technology and magic. "Desert marrow is already dead. It's a dragon zombie." The bright-haired girl pointed at the core, her voice resolute. The arms and the armor were just peripherals. If they could destroy that core, the true heart of the monster, the battle would be over. If we destroy that, we win. The declaration closed Chapter 57, setting the stage for the crucial confrontation ahead. Cadaveroid Prime, the ultimate enemy, has fully revealed itself. Just as the team discovers its weak core, they find themselves on the defensive with all strategic skills exhausted. The person who just used the pile bunker move has no uses left, and the system begins announcing, chamber flooding will now resume. All hopes now rest on Lycoris, the only sniper still capable of fighting. The order is given. It's all up to Lycoris's sniping now. But at that moment, control is forcibly taken away. The system no longer obeys commands. The commander panics. It isn't letting me control it anymore, and shouts, "Camera girl." In this life-or-death moment, Chapter 58 opens with a rapid pace as all fragile hopes hang on a single shot. Desert Marrow thrashes violently as its tail suddenly breaks free from its restraints. If the water continues to rise, the core will retreat inside its body and all efforts will be in vain. A reckless person rushes in, cutting off the tail to prevent it from breaking the cable. The surprise leaves the group stunned, some scream, others curse the seemingly foolish act. But that very action stuns Desert Marrow, creating a chance for survival. Amid the chaos and shouting, the risky tactic opens a new opportunity to attack. As Desert Marrow's tail struggles to smash the cable, a double attack is launched. The atomic smash, skill, and freezing shot bullets strike simultaneously, freezing all movement. The seamless coordination shakes the entire battlefield. A member yells loudly, signaling to ignore the tail and focus on the critical strike. Meanwhile, Lycoris quickly climbs the stairs, taking the firing position. Now is the decisive moment, with all faith placed on a single shot to finish off the monster. Just as the plan seems to be running smoothly, an unexpected event occurs. Desert Marrow's mouth opens, revealing a strange mechanism inside. The female protagonist immediately recognizes the danger. It's a hidden weapon. With eyes full of shock and worry, she wonders if this is the monster's final trump card, a deadly counterattack when cornered. The tension suddenly reaches its peak. Desert Marrow suddenly opens its mouth, revealing a giant cannon inside, a railgun. Recognizing it as the ultimate weapon listed in its arsenal, the members instantly grasp the critical situation. The railgun begins charging energy, emitting deadly sparks. It locks onto Lycoris, who is on the stairs, a position too narrow to dodge. A shout rings out, "Over here!" A desperate attempt to distract, but is there still time? Camera Girl suddenly jumps into the battlefield, raising her device and activating the flash skill, a tanker move that draws all enemy attention. Desert Marrow's railgun shifts target, locking onto her. When Lycoris asks why she did that, Camera Girl just smiles and replies that if no one wins, there won't be any news to report. She has no mission here, so if she dies, the penalty will be light. With a mischievous yet determined expression, she adds, "And there's one more reason." Mid the tense battle scene, Camera Girl suddenly turns her lens forward and shouts a public apology. "I'm sorry for writing unverified articles." She admits to spreading rumors about Krim, calling him a dirty assassin, without proper investigation. Now, facing the consequences of her writing, she does not shy away. It is a sincere apology to Krim and Lycoris, who once misunderstood him because of that article. Against the backdrop of the distant roaring railgun, she firmly declares, "Let me rewrite that article," as a way to make amends through her courage and righteousness in this life-or-death moment. Camera Girl Kamuka smiles brightly as if with no regrets. In her final moment, she says, "Now please excuse me," and makes her last move to protect the team. The screen displays the cold word destroy along with her avatar disappearing. Both Lycoris and the teammates are stunned. Lycoris calls her name in a choked voice, while the commander only manages to shout "Lycoris" as a desperate urge in this critical moment. Kamuka sacrificed herself, not as a noisy reporter but as a brave comrade, choosing death to protect the last chance for everyone. Lycoris tightened her grip on the large rifle, her eyes resolute. "I know," she responded to the order without hesitation. Facing the metal monster rising once again, she turned her back and began charging energy for the final strike. Just as the plan says, it's time for that new battle art. With the precision of a marksman, she started loading the level 3 skill, knowing there was only one chance. Under flickering light and echoing metal sounds, Lycoris stepped into the pivotal role to end the battle. Cadaveroid prepared to fire the second railgun shot without cooldown, shocking everyone. A teammate shouted a warning to Lycoris. She couldn't move while charging her ultimate skill. Although she could cancel to dodge, she hesitated. Water was rising to their feet, the cooling system was starting to recover while the crane and cables were about to give way. The situation grew more tense, they had to end the fight now. Lycoris raised her gun in this life-or-death moment, fully aware that if she canceled the charge to dodge, she wouldn't have time to build it up again. Although the level 2 attack was less than half as strong as level 3, it would be faster. However, the team immediately warned her, if even 1 HP of Cadaveroid Prime remained, they would lose. A lower-level Cadaveroid once blocked a close-range shot, but Prime was much stronger. Lycoris hesitated, knowing the only choice was to persist in charging and put all her strength into the final strike. As Cadaveroid prepared to fire the second railgun shot, the short-haired girl with the giant sword rushed in like a whirlwind. With determined eyes, she declared she would handle the cannon, a life-or-death mission to protect Lycoris preparing the finishing blow. The shadow of her weapon, the shadow-heavy weapon, katana, radiated fierce killing intent. She was not just a warrior but the group's last hope to prevent disaster at the last second. While everyone was shocked by the short-haired girl's decision, she simply tightened her dark katana, her gaze unwavering. A sword facing a Mach 7 railgun. No one believed it possible except Lycoris. Though knowing parrying this shot was madness, she smiled, because in her heart she had absolute faith in Krim. Not reason but belief, the only weapon that could defy the odds of survival. Krim held her breath, eyes fixed on the scope. Cadaveroid Prime was about to fire and Lycoris was the target. One shot through the tiny exposed core hole was enough to take it down. But at Mach 7 speed, reacting was impossible. Krim understood clearly she had to shoot before the attack started, timing the energy charge perfectly. Meanwhile, her teammate wielding the sword was ready to swing the katana to block the unblockable strike. One shooting, one slashing. Both risking their lives on a thread's edge. Krim aimed straight at Cadaveroid Prime's core through the scope, where only a tiny gap existed between the armor. At the same time, her teammate, carrying the energy-infused katana, dashed into the line of fire without hesitation. Just trust myself, Krim thought, lips pressed tight. Just watch me. A thunderous shout echoed through the rising water, breaking all doubt. One finger squeezed the trigger, one swordsman cut through space. Just one moment, everything would be decided. Mid splashing water and thick killing intent, two ultimate skills were unleashed simultaneously. The swordsman surged forward with katana art, Shuramakuri, swinging the blade in an icy arc that struck Cadaveroid Prime, while Krim held her gun steady, firing Magius gun art, strike bullet precisely at the target's core. The coordinated strike poured all hope, speed, and faith into a single moment. A slash, a shot, either victory or total collapse. The blade sliced through water, the bullet pierced the sky. Both attacks hit their mark. The bullet penetrated the tiny opening at the monster's head, breaking the final protective shell, while the slash cut through the energy rail before it could fire. Cadaveroid Prime convulsed violently, the core's light flickering as the entire system began to explode chaotically. Astonished, doubtful, and hopeful eyes met in that moment, witnessing the impossible become reality. The HP bar emptied, the destroy icon flashing on the screen, confirming the complete collapse of Cadaveroid Prime and Desert Marrow. The two girls lifted their heads amid shards and light, embracing and shouting in unbelievable joy. They actually did it. Victory over an invincible enemy, they had made the impossible real. The battle ended, the chapter closed, but in their eyes, a new chapter had just begun. Chapter 59 opens with a light-hearted and laughter-filled atmosphere following a dramatic battle. Krim and his teammates start playing rock, paper, scissors to compete for the first clear bonus. Their tense and serious expressions make the moment oddly funny. Even while wearing combat gloves, Krim manages to throw scissors by loosening the glove straps, surprising his opponents and winning the game. He shouts triumphantly, "Booyah! The first clear bonus is mine." A humorous break that also showcases the team's spirit and witty personalities of the characters. After defeating Cadaveroid Prime, the group enters a room filled with documents. Lycoris, excited about the lore materials, exclaims, "This room has so many lore docs to read. Listen to this," causing Krim and the others to sigh. From the blueprints, they discover that Desert Marrow was once a real dragon, turned into a zombie and encased in mechanical armor. Since its wings were badly damaged, they were replaced with magical mechanical arms, and the control system is a merman Cadaveroid. While Lycoris is immersed in the lore world, Krim worries about the desire sensor being triggered and them missing out on rewards, so he cuts in. "Can we just hurry up and complete the quest and get some unique gear?" Practical but perfectly capturing the gamer spirit. The mission, End the Argent Empire's Cruel Experiments, is officially completed. The group successfully shut down the facilities system and defeated Desert Marrow, fulfilling both the main objective and bonus conditions. The reward screen pops up, 35,000 fall and an adventurer's gift box. In a moment of relief, everyone thinks of the one who sacrificed herself in the battle, the camera girl. Lycoris smiles softly. We'll have to thank that camera girl later, while the teammates get excited about what's next. The long-awaited unique gear gacha roll? They all clasp their hands and pray in unison. Please, for the love of God, because everyone knows a gamer's fate sometimes lies in the hands of a random system more ruthless than any boss. After a few short hours, their shared journey comes to an end. Crimson has found the material she needed, a space-time snapshot crystal, allowing her to finally upgrade the cloak of the young Red Lion Emperor. She beams with happiness amid the glow from the rare item, as if an old glory has been rekindled through the flow of time. Meanwhile, Raijin-san is lucky enough to roll a completely new unique piece of equipment, impressing the whole team. Roper-san rolls 3 rare enhancement materials, but no unique item to use, left only to laugh madly at his teasing fate. The group parts ways from the campaign with each person having different results, but the shared feeling remains one of satisfaction and excitement for the next adventure. And for little Lycoris, the reward she receives is the Magius Orb, the Recon model. Though not a unique item, it's the perfect gift for a sniper like her. Her eyes sparkle brightly as she looks at the small flying device, excitedly exclaiming, "I love it!" The atmosphere lights up as she shares that, despite just a few short hours, she's never had a gaming session as wonderful as today. In that moment among companions, the excitement and joy become a reward more precious than any item. As night falls and the moon shines brightly in the sky, the group ends their day's journey. In the calm atmosphere after victory, Krim shyly suggests the group join his Salted Salmon Guild, a name both humorous and familiar. However, Lycoris quickly declines with a polite smile since she's already a member of another guild. The awkward silence among the characters lasts only a second before the mood livens up with teammates teasing. Shot down, lol. Though unable to recruit new members, they maintain a relaxed spirit, closing a day of adventure full of emotions. Under the bright moonlight, Lycoris quietly grabs Ilias's sleeve, her eyes full of emotion without words. That small gesture not only shows their bond after the battle, but also serves as an unspoken thank you. Krim and the team, with relieved and happy faces, suggest becoming friends after the life-and-death moments they shared. Though not in the same guild, they still share mutual respect. A sincere remark is heard. You two make a great pair. In the silence, a budding friendship slowly forms, signaling a promising future for upcoming adventures. Beneath the starry night sky and full moon, 2 warriors walk across white sands, their silhouettes gradually fading away. They turn back, wave goodbye, leaving simple but heartfelt farewells. See ya then. We'll catch ya later. Thanks for playing. In that moment, no victory, reward, or glory is needed. Just companionship and laughter are enough to end a memorable day of adventure. Under the full moon casting silver light over the desolate land, 2 girls sit quietly together. The suddenness of their farewell leaves both hearts feeling empty. Just like every time, huh? One softly says. But just as the silence seems to settle, the girl with bright hair unexpectedly speaks, her hand trembling with hesitation yet sincerity. Before we part, I want to ask you one last time. Do you want to join my group? That question is not just an invitation, but a bridge of hope, of memories not yet ready to end. Beneath the starry night sky, the bright-haired girl looks up to face Krim, her gaze resolute. I want to join your guild, Crimson, she says without hesitation. Though her heart is filled with fears, she admits to feeling raw and vulnerable beside him. Yet it is that very feeling that gives her hope and a desire for change. I know I refused before, but now it's different. I want to play with you more. In that moment, no further explanation is needed. Everything is clear, a decision made from the heart. Under the radiant full moon, Krim smiles and replies immediately without hesitation. Of course, glad to welcome you, Lycoris. A simple but warm acceptance. Lycoris blushes softly, nodding shyly. Okay then. To commemorate the moment, they suggest dropping formalities. Can I call you Krim One-chan? Lycoris asks, her voice gentle but hopeful. From afar, the camera girl captures the moment through her lens, a simple photo that embodies their bond and a new beginning. I think that's good enough. She quietly smiles, putting her camera away. And so, a new chapter in their journey officially begins. The photo, taken under the starry moon, unexpectedly appears on the front page of the newspaper, catching everyone's attention. Lycoris beams brightly, Krim winks mischievously. They look like heroes who have just finished an amazing adventure. Hina, Hinajiku-chan, look at this paper. a voice exclaims in surprise. Master and another girl? Another seems confused, even a bit jealous. At the bottom of the page is a small caption, an article praising the kindness of the goddess Krim. Full translation at the end of the volume. But in truth, that simple moment, the smiles, the glances, says it all. The journey may have ended, but the friendship is just beginning. Two beast-eared girls sit reading the newspaper in a quiet inn, their eyes frozen as they see the photo of Krim and Lycoris on the front page. Another disciple, one asks with a tone half doubtful, half surprised. The other grits her teeth, eyes flashing with jealousy, then slams the table shouting, Krim Chan, you big cheater! The shout echoes through the empty wooden room, creating an atmosphere full of misunderstandings. In the distance, another figure approaches with a smirk and a gentle explanation. No, she's just a new guild member. She and Krim will be here soon. The sun has risen, but it seems the atmosphere is only heating up. As Krim and Lycoris approach the charming wooden house nestled in the meadow, their reunion is anything but quiet. From the second-floor balcony, a familiar voice calls out, Hey, guys! 3 guild members immediately recognize them. One of the 2 fox-eared girls excitedly shouts, Ooh, a gunner, just what we were looking for. Lycoris freezes, whispering, There's people there. Krim smiles gently and replies, Well, it is our guild house. The peaceful scene gradually turns lively, signaling a new beginning full of surprises, and a bit of noise for the guild. Lycoris trembles slightly as she stands before the new members but still manages to say hello. Hi. A fox-eared girl steps forward, smiling warmly. Call me Hinajiku, I think you're about my age. Beside her, a gentle female swordsman adds, And I'm Freya, if you need any help, feel free to ask. A man with kind eyes and round glasses softly continues. I'm Frey. Thanks for accepting our guild invite. Consider yourself welcome here. Before Lycoris can say anything, Krim glances at her with affection and encouragement. The start at this guild is turning out warmer than she ever imagined. Lycoris stood among her new friends, still a bit shy but smiling bravely. I'm Lycoris. It's nice to meet you. The simple greeting was filled with determination and joy. The guild members, Frey, Freya, Hinajiku, each smiled warmly, welcoming her with open arms. I look forward to playing with all of you. The young girl stepped beyond the boundaries of loneliness and hesitation to begin a whole new chapter, where she was no longer an outsider, but an indispensable part of this new big family. Chapter 59 closes with a warm moment among friends and a future wide open. As the new chapter began, Krim relaxed in the hot spring, sweat still clinging to her skin after consecutive battles. She sighed in relief, phew, a rare moment of calm amid the vibrant pace of a rising guild. In the warm water, she pondered the latest announcement. The guild-ranked tourney had released its rules, format, and match brackets. They would be in Block 3. Everyone else was busy with quests, but Krim, in this solitary moment, was mentally preparing for the next big battle, not with swords and spears, but with strategy and decisiveness. Soaking in the hot water, Krim quietly analyzed the new format for the quarterfinals. This would be a tag-team-style battle, 2 guilds joining forces to face off against 2 other guilds, totaling 20 players on the battlefield. But this was more than just a team fight. The new system was a serious test of coordination, shared strategy, and synergy between guilds, a preparation for the upcoming territory conquest system. In the future, allying with other guilds would no longer be optional but a matter of survival. Krim understood clearly. This was training for even bigger battles ahead. Krim sat relaxed in the bath, but her mind was still calculating. The guild ranking tournament had reached the round of 64 teams. Each block consisted of 4 guilds, and the rule was capture the flag. Whoever controlled the opponent's flag zone or eliminated the entire enemy team would win. With 64 teams passing the qualifiers, only 32 would be selected after this round. Krim knew well, this was no time to be careless, and the guild they needed to watch out for the most was Black Rabbit Group, a name that immediately put Krim on high alert. Mentioned by Saul Leon as a notable rival and ranked 9th in the qualifiers, this group was clearly not to be underestimated. If she wanted a rematch with Saul Leon, Krim had to get past them first. With the new rule, controlling flags instead of wiping out the entire opponent, tactics had to change as well. They could split roles between the 2 guilds, one attacking, one defending, or break through quickly to capture the flag as fast as possible. Whatever the approach, Krim understood clearly, this would be a completely different kind of battle. After the match, the girl began organizing plans for the next round. She wanted to meet her allies at Otoru Boyu, but they were all offline. Besides that, she intended to ask Rajan about enhancing exclusive weapons, something only possible in certain locations. Her mind was tangled with too many things to handle. Still, she wasn't used to some small details like underwear. When a determined shout rang out, "Just listen to me!" All eyes turned to her. Even Lycoris got dragged in without understanding what was going on. The whole guild meeting suddenly exploded when Freya shouted loudly, "Oh, you are guild name SUUCKS?" Her outrage shook the group. Freya declared everything from the kanji writing to the guild's pronunciation was unbearably cringe. She not only opposed the safe-style introduction, but also dragged Hinajiku into the wave of dissent. Meanwhile, Lycoris, who thought the guild name was just a joke, got caught up in the rebellion and accidentally became the third vote. The group was now 3 against 2, while those around could only wonder, what's all this noise about? Krim froze when she heard the group unanimously call the guild name, Genocide Abyss, nice to meet you, way 2 cringe. Embarrassed and slightly shocked, she tried to ask again in faint hope, but only got the harsh truth. You have no taste. Then Lycoris suggested renaming the guild by voting through a suggestion box. Krim sighed in acceptance, admitting her mistake in nomming it herself with a friend. But everyone quickly shifted focus to something more important, preparing strategies to face the powerful Azure Dragon Tempest Guild. To win the tournament, the group identified their 2 biggest obstacles as Nord Glacier and Azure Dragon Tempest, ADT. Nord Glacier was relatively easy to read due to their public activities, frequent live streams, and PvP matches. Krim had even soloed their leader, Saul Leon, so they somewhat understood how to face them. On the other hand, ADT was a complete mystery. No information was available, no streams, no data. Rumor had it Nord Glacier was so strong they even let their B team compete all the way to the semi-finals. But in the end, Hinajiku concluded, "We won't face them until the finals," emphasizing this was a long-term strategy, since the quarterfinals weren't over yet. While the group was still discussing the guild name and tactics for the quarterfinals, Frey suddenly proposed a plan that could only be executed right now: espionage. He made it clear, "We will infiltrate Azure Dragon Tempest and gather intel." Since their group wasn't too famous yet, acting discreetly was still feasible. After the semifinals, their reputation would rise, making any surveillance impossible. Hinajiku was stunned, like real spies. Frey firmly asserted this was a necessary move if they wanted to win. Lycoris worried that the infiltration might be seen as unsportsmanlike, but at the same time she couldn't deny the truth. ADT had over 300 members, while their group only had 6. As the team began preparing for the espionage plan, Frey firmly stated that they had no other choice. Despite never live-streaming, ADT's leadership made everyone wary. Zio, their leader, was so secretive that no one knew his class or race. Even using only their B team, ADT was still a championship contender. Everyone was concerned because none of them had stealth skills, but Frey confidently declared, "That's not a problem." When assigned the task, she grinned slyly and mysteriously pulled Lycoris along. It turned out Frey had been informed about the plan early and had prepared something special. With a knowing smile, she led Lycoris to the changing room, leaving the girl bewildered and exclaiming, "Yuwa," not knowing what awaited her. The group's infiltration plan was officially revealed. Disguise themselves as members of Azure Dragon Tempest and boldly walk right into the enemy's stronghold. Krim, wearing the slightly unconventional uniform Freya prepared, screamed in panic at the outfit's ridiculousness and audacity, while Frey was enchanted by how adorable Krim looked in the tight-fitting cheongsam. Though ruthlessly dragged into the role of bait, Krim couldn't escape Frey's starry-eyed gaze and the ecstatic cheers from their teammates. Krim sat resting her chin on her hand in the alluring disguise uniform, annoyed but trying to stay calm as she reminded herself that the rival guild had over 300 members, and none of them knew each other fully, a perfect advantage for blending in. Meanwhile, Lycoris excitedly peeked through a slit in the cardboard box, ready for the espionage mission she longed for. Before they could decide her role, the order was given. Everyone prepare to change clothes. The infiltration was about to begin. The whole group appeared in their splendid disguises, each transformed into a member of Azure Dragon Tempest with radiant appearances but chaotic minds. With fiery spirit, they shouted their mission: infiltrate ADT's headquarters and expose Zio's secrets. However, the heroic atmosphere was quickly deflated by a simple but fatal question. Does anyone know where their base is? And the answer was, let me look it up first. The curtain closed on Chapter 60 with the sound of a *beep keyboard search, like a gentle slap to their initial enthusiasm. On the road leading to the Azure Dragon Tempest base, the group entered the northeastern region of the continent for the first time. The scenery changed dramatically, leaving them amazed. It was like stepping into ancient China. While moving along the ancient city wall, they not only discussed the enemy's strategic position but also got excited as blank areas on the map began to be named. Although it was an exploration mission, to them it felt like an exhilarating adventure full of discovery. With the map in hand and their goal ahead, they pressed forward, both nervous and eager. When Krim's group arrived at Yulong, a mountaintop town by the bay, home to the Azure Dragon Tempest headquarters, they were all overwhelmed by the majestic scenery and solemn, ancient architecture. The towering spires rising amid the rugged mountains exuded a dignified aura far beyond anything they had seen on the forums. Despite its massive scale, the complex seemed to be still expanding. In the tense atmosphere of their infiltration mission, Yulong's grandeur only heightened the pressure and determination within each of them. As the disguised group entered the bustling town of Yulong, the Azure Dragon Tempest base, they were overwhelmed by the lively scene resembling a miniature Asian festival. Busy NPCs, non-ADT players bustling about, and stalls filled with tempting foods made the atmosphere feel like an endless celebration. Although Hinajiku was quickly overcome by hunger, gathering intelligence remained the top priority. Amid the noise and excitement, Lycoris quietly slipped away to find an ideal vantage point, marking the start of their bold reconnaissance campaign. The scouting team began approaching the Azure Dragon Tempest main headquarters. As they neared the central area, they were astonished by the massive scale ADT had built in less than a month since the game's launch. The magnificent scene and grand architecture intensified the pressure on their mission. The team leader pondered the effectiveness of their disguises. Would they blend seamlessly into the crowd? When a passerby suddenly noticed them, all eyes turned in their direction. Tension started to rise. As the group entered the city center in disguise, all attention immediately focused on Krim in her Chinese-style uniform. The city's residents showed no suspicion. On the contrary, they admired her appearance and attire, assuming she was an official member of Azure Dragon Tempest. Freya and the others quickly realized their disguise plan was not only effective, but also made them well-liked. Though embarrassed, Krim understood that the group would easily blend into the crowd. The initial reconnaissance mission was a success. No one suspected they didn't belong there. Before approaching the Azure Dragon Tempest headquarters, the group paused to review their objectives. The main mission was to gather intelligence on the opponent's strategies, the expected lineup for the finals, each member's role, and the weapons they would use. Freya emphasized that everyone needed to disguise themselves skillfully to interview or eavesdrop without arousing suspicion. Although Krim began to feel nervous, her teammates reassured her that as long as they acted naturally, no one would doubt them. Everything now depended on their role-playing skills and discretion in this espionage campaign. The group reached the main gate of the Azure Dragon Tempest headquarters and found it openly accessible with a magnificent design. However, to avoid revealing their identities, they decided not to use the main entrance and sought a way around the back. Meanwhile, Lycoris contacted them remotely via the Magius Orb device, reporting that she had taken a scouting position atop a nearby tall tower. Her perfect concealment surprised the group, showing she would be a key asset in the upcoming tournament. The group approached one of the secondary entrances to the ADT headquarters, worried about being expelled if discovered. However, the presence of many non-ADT players made them less cautious. Meanwhile, another player struck up a conversation, mistaking them for newcomers and offering help. The discussion centered on their Chinese-style outfits, the ADT's signature symbol, leading the other player to believe they were recruiting new members. This helped the group blend in smoothly without suspicion. Freya appeared radiant in traditional Chinese attire, drawing all eyes around her. She didn't need to do much. A single smile was enough to make the atmosphere pause. A nearby player, enchanted by her presence, immediately changed tone and expressed a desire to join the guild, despite previous hesitation. The effect of Freya's charm and carefully crafted image not only helped the group integrate, but also made others willingly trust them. Freya smiled brightly, maintaining her radiant aura after attracting a new player who decided to join. Although a bit embarrassed by the extra attention, she quickly regained her composure. Meanwhile, the group immediately switched to action mode, splitting into teams for more effective infiltration. Freya went with Hinajiku, Lycoris provided flexible support for the whole team, and Krim teamed up closely with Frey. Despite feeling somewhat conspicuous in the crowd, the group continued with the mission they had set for themselves: infiltrate Azure Dragon Tempest and gather strategic intelligence. Freya and Hinajiku walked confidently through the bustling dining area of Azure Dragon Tempest, completely unsuspected despite being on an infiltration mission. Freya smiled calmly, proving that the power of confidence and proper role-playing can solve many problems. Meanwhile, Hinajiku was amazed by the amount of food on display and the lively atmosphere around her, but was quickly reminded by Freya that the real feast was information. She pointed out that when people eat, they tend to let their guard down, making it the perfect time to gather important intel. The two continued blending into the crowd, gradually approaching their target under perfect cover. While Freya's infiltration team was carrying out their intelligence-gathering mission, unexpectedly, they got drawn into the rich culinary world of the Azure Dragon Tempest Guild Hall. Freya savored every bite with a radiant, happy face, constantly praising the deliciousness, even losing her voice from sheer satisfaction. Hinajiku also immersed herself in the joy of eating, marveling at the convenience of VR where food never gets cold or overheated. Around them, gamers chatted about joining ADT simply because of the friendly atmosphere and the all-you-can-eat buffet. Some began to waver in their resolve, while Freya was already thinking about the next dish, seemingly forgetting this was an intelligence mission. Yet, this open environment became a golden opportunity to gather information naturally and effectively. As the scouting team delved deeper inside the Azure Dragon Tempest headquarters, they quickly discovered that most common storage areas were locked, accessible only to official members. Although initially hopeful to find useful information, Freya and Krim kept running into rooms filled with nothing but elaborate decorations. One particular room stunned them with its excessive intricacy, as if someone had poured all their passion into interior design rather than functionality. Just as the group planned to push further for clues, a mysterious figure suddenly appeared, forcing them to hide quickly. The silence was shattered by tension, a sign that this seemingly easy infiltration was about to enter a more dangerous phase. Two ADT members were transporting supplies into an important room. Krim and her team immediately hid in a corner, listening carefully. A new character, Hyorin-san, appeared and directly asked about the progress of item collection, revealing they had completed about 80% of the plan. However, there was still a crucial material they didn't know how to obtain. The group silently took note of this information, as it could be a key piece for their upcoming tournament strategy. While observing, Krim's group accidentally overheard that ADT members were planning a meeting to discuss crafting new equipment. This was an extremely valuable opportunity. If they could learn what kind of gear ADT intended to create, they could not only predict upcoming strategies, but also infer the roles and races of the participants. Krim immediately realized this was a rare chance that could turn the entire tournament around. But just as the tension peaked, an unexpected voice called out from behind, "Huh, hey you two!" Had they been discovered? Krim's reconnaissance plan was on the verge of collapse when an ADT member suddenly appeared and questioned them. This person had never seen the two before and immediately grew suspicious when noticing they weren't wearing guild badges, a mandatory requirement for ADT members. While Krim awkwardly tried to come up with an excuse, the atmosphere grew tense. If they were found out, all their efforts to eavesdrop on the strategy meeting would be in vain. Thus, Chapter 61 ended with a warning echoing in Krim's mind. If we get found out here, all the fuss will mean we won't be able to hear the meeting. Faced with interrogation about the guild badge, Krim and her teammates had to improvise with a series of lies. The girl quickly claimed that her sister had won the lottery, forcing them to log out abruptly right after joining, while another member nervously contradicted himself by inventing a non-existent sister. Fortunately, the gatekeeper didn't press further and only reminded them that it was fine not to wear the badge when off-duty. The team swiftly escaped, continuing their reconnaissance mission under tense circumstances, marking the beginning of Chapter 62, when the duo is sus. Krim and her team continued moving outside to avoid drawing attention, while still trying to gather information from ADT's internal meeting. From intercepted exchanges, they confirmed an important rumor. The ADT lineup that played in the qualifiers consisted entirely of melee warriors, but it might be completely replaced by the A-team in the finals. Based on tactical predictions, the group inferred that the new lineup would include at least two mages, opening a crucial strategic clue for the upcoming confrontation. The team immediately gathered in front of a room, apparently ADT's tactical discussion center, to keep monitoring. While spying on ADT's secret meeting from the other side of the wall, Krim's group noted an important detail. All 5 official lineup members chose light armor to avoid compromising their movement speed, meaning they would be weaker defensively, both physically and magically. This surprised the group since they had believed ADT would change their lineup to include mages. However, all current signs indicated the lineup still consisted of 5 high-speed warriors as before, leading them to question whether the rumor about switching players was just a diversion tactic. While monitoring ADT's meeting, Krim overheard a fragmented conversation about a crafting material called Minute. Drawing on her personal knowledge, she quickly deduced the material was terminite, a very rare resource typically used to craft high-level magical weapons. The fact that ADT needed 90 units of terminite for the finals suggested they planned to create 5 weapons, each requiring 18 units, strengthening the suspicion that their new lineup would include several magic users. Krim's team now had a clear lead on the opponent's equipment upgrade plan. After analyzing the amount of terminite required for each high-level magical weapon, Krim's group concluded that ADT's new lineup would likely consist entirely of mages. This was a strategy completely opposite to the pure physical attack lineup they used in the qualifiers. This revelation surprised the team. If ADT truly intended to overhaul their entire lineup, previous match data would become useless. However, Krim began to suspect that ADT might be creating a smokescreen, requesting rare materials just to mislead other opponents. Regardless, ordering terminite from Takai, the largest crafting guild currently, would certainly not be easy to fake. The strategic game between guilds had begun to surpass the usual battlefield tactics. As the ADT guild members' meeting was in full swing, a loud shout suddenly cut through the atmosphere. "Over that way! Get them!" Chaos erupted unexpectedly, putting Krim and her team on high alert. Called out and asked to show their guild emblems, they immediately realized something was wrong. Perhaps Freya or someone in the group had been spotted. When NPCs began hunting those without visible guild badges, Lycoris hurriedly tried to explain, but it seemed the spy situation had crossed the safety threshold. With a cold glare and the phrase, "We're very sorry, very much so," Krim had to fully immerse herself in the role to avoid suspicion. The situation was escalating rapidly, and the risk of being exposed was imminent. After the tense escape, Krim and her team received news from Magius Orb that Freya and Hinajiku had accidentally eaten all the experimental combat food, special dishes designed to enhance abilities for the finals. Each portion was worth 200,000 fall, with ultra-rare ingredients now wasted. While Orb anxiously fretted they would end up like Elmir, Krim simply replied, "Yeah, thanks for the report," utterly powerless against the chaos caused by her team. Things worsened when a mysterious name, Elmir, was mentioned, raising suspicions of a new force. Krim sighed helplessly as Orb hurried off to assist another group, leaving behind a sarcastic question. Why leave such special food in a public place where anyone could accidentally eat it? A spy failure without guns, just a hungry stomach. Amid the chaos caused by accidentally eating the special food meant for the finals, the mysterious figure Zio finally appeared, entering the meeting room with a calm demeanor and formal attire that immediately dominated the atmosphere with his presence. He simply asked, "It's noisy out there, what's going on?" But his arrival made the spying group watching exclaim in shock, "It's Zio," showing that his reputation carried real weight beyond rumors. Inside the meeting room, the others hurriedly greeted him, emphasizing their satisfaction at allying with him before the qualifiers. But Zio remained composed, declining to review the equipment designs, indicating his focus was on higher strategic matters. Though he revealed nothing about his plans or true role, Zio's presence served as a warning. From here on, the real game was about to begin. Zio sat comfortably at the conference table, his eyes bright yet unreadable, listening to the partners' proposal to maintain peace during the finals, a tacit agreement not to attack each other. Those around seemed hesitant, one slowly admitting that the idea was less than ideal. Zio tilted his head, offering a half-smile, and asked as if puzzled, or pretending to be, less than ideal. That simple gesture made the atmosphere tense, for behind his friendly exterior lay a subtle warning. Zio was fully aware of what was happening and would not be easily manipulated. The masked individual spoke up, skillfully drawing the blurry line between strategy and cheating. "We just need to avoid getting caught breaking the Alliance rules." They acknowledged that teams would do anything as long as they weren't disqualified, much like in real sports. Zio listened attentively, his gaze free of judgment, simply nodding. Of course. He affirmed that this strategy, a minor foul just enough to weaken the opponent's morale yet nearly undetectable, was simply part of the game. His words not only legitimized cunning tactics, but also revealed how ADT operated as a sharp and far from innocent force. Zio smiled slyly, resting his hand lightly under his chin as if sharing a valuable secret. If your hands get a little dirty, it's no big deal. Playing unfairly is just part of the strategy. The words came softly but cut like a knife, reflecting a cold, pragmatic mindset. His companion across the table didn't argue, only pressed their lips tightly and responded with a determined look. Better than accepting defeat with clean hands. One picture, two attitudes, united by one belief. Victory was the only thing worth protecting, and ethics were merely negotiable. Krim and Freya continued to observe from behind, their faces anxious yet clear-headed. Even though he says it won't be detected because it's on a small scale, it's still a big deal, Krim said, eyes fixed on the window frame. Freya nodded, her voice low but clear. I think so too, but surely they'll do it in a way that's hard to call cheating. Zio's cunning made them wary. If he was willing to cooperate with a strong guild like Takai, there was no guarantee he wouldn't do the same with other guilds in the future. Krim, we should also consider teaming up with someone, Freya suggested, but before she finished, Krim whispered his thought. Teaming, it's such a nasty kind of collusion. The tactical pieces were slowly falling into place, but the cost was the stain beneath the veneer of reputation, a line both hesitated to cross. Freya looked down at the wooden floor, her voice low but resolute. But I don't want to do anything that clearly breaks the rules like that. Krim nodded softly, though his gaze drifted toward the distance where factions schemed in the shadows. It's strange to say, he admitted, when we're the ones eavesdropping on them. A tense silence followed. Finally, Krim quietly conceded. But if a weak guild like ours wants to win, I understand what Zio means. Freya turned to him, her eyes reflecting disappointment mixed with sadness, but not surprise. I knew you'd say that, she sighed, caught between ethics and the desire to win. Krim looked straight ahead, his eyes firm, his voice resolute. I don't think we should rule it out as an option. In the moment of silence, Freya froze, eyes wide as she absorbed his words. A complex emotion flickered across her face, blending worry, disappointment, and something like unspeakable sorrow. Krim. Chapter 62 closed with that call, carrying the echo of a decision approaching, where the line between morality and pragmatism blurred in the fog of strategy. Chapter 63 opens amid the bustling atmosphere of the conference. After discovering that the prototype meals had disappeared, the leadership group quickly headed to the kitchen. Krim and Freya silently followed, realizing the entire meeting room was shifting. With no reason to linger, they left as well. However, the sky began to cloud over, signaling impending rain. Krim frowned, worried that the sound of rain might drown out the crucial words they needed to eavesdrop on. The situation was becoming unfavorable, not just because of the weather, but also the timing. Krim and Freya split up to take action. Freya decided to stick close to Zio's group to continue monitoring the main movements of the conference, while Krim took on the task of checking unexplored areas. With a firm nod, Krim quickly departed, striding down the quiet corridor. The wind began to blow stronger, carrying thick, gloomy clouds. Freya stood alone in the shadows, her gaze following her companion's fatting figure, carrying with her an undefined mix of worry and determination. A significant turning point was approaching. Krim sat alone in the wooden hallway, his hands clutching his head, eyes heavy with a flood of overwhelming thoughts. He berated himself for suggesting they split up, a decision he now saw as foolish. In Krim's mind, memories of his initial hesitation about the plan to monitor ADT resurfaced. He knew well that he hated shady dealings, and now that the idea of collusion was beginning to emerge, he felt more conflicted than ever. The fear of breaking trust with his companion left Krim so unsettled he couldn't calm down. Every self-reproach echoed clearly. I really was too stupid. Just as Krim was drowning in self-reproach, a familiar voice spoke from behind him. It was Zio. With a half-smile and calm eyes, Zio said he didn't think the recent idea was that bad. Krim turned around, surprised by Zio's unexpected appearance, and even more confused when he noticed Zio hadn't gone to the kitchen with the others. Meanwhile, another girl appeared with an inscrutable smile, greeting softly but with hidden meaning, deepening Krim's unease. Was this just a coincidence? Or was something being concealed? Still shaken from being caught, Krim was reassured by Zio's smile, who affirmed he was the only one there. Whether intentional or accidental, Zio suggested moving to another spot to talk, making Krim even more wary. Despite being caught eavesdropping, Krim was invited to sit and drink tea in an atmosphere so strange it felt suspicious. Though he didn't hide his caution, Krim found himself drawn into the conversation. What chilled him most was Zio's knowledge of his name, something never revealed before. In this eerily peaceful setting, Krim faced not only surprise but the harsh truth that he was under the control of a far more dangerous player than the friendly facade suggested. Zio gently confirmed that he knew exactly who Frey was, instantly putting Frey on higher alert. The name Crimson Robe and rumors about the headhunter began to surface in his mind. Zio didn't hide his true intention. He was trying to verify whether Krim, Frey's close companion, was indeed the red-robed headhunter that Saul Leon had personally mentioned. Frey quickly understood why he had been separated and invited here. However, when Zio sarcastically remarked that he was merely trying to see if Frey was truly smart, the cold exterior only revealed the deep scheming behind his polite smile. Though confused, Frey began to realize he was stepping into a much bigger game than he had imagined. Frey had just breathed a sigh of relief when Zio appeared agreeable, only to be immediately countered with a series of sharp remarks. Zio smiled brightly, saying there was simply reason to be suspicious, but then began analyzing the situation with chilling, cold logic. The fact that Frey's group conducted reconnaissance before everyone had settled was notable, but bringing Krim, someone Saul Leon ranked alongside top guilds, was a fatal mistake. Zio pointed out that wherever Krim appeared, he would instantly draw attention. Not stopping there, he mocked Frey's group for dressing too formally, completely ruining their just passing by pretense. Frey was cornered with no room to deny. The words Zio spoke not only hit their weak points, but also showed that all their actions had long been under control. Zio continued to mock with a teasingly casual attitude, implying that Frey brought Krim along not for strategy but for personal feelings. "Young love," he laughed, leaving Frey so flustered he didn't know whether to be angry or embarrassed. Inside Frey's mind, confusion swirled endlessly. Was Zio really probing him or just teasing? But before things went any further, Zio shifted his tone, leaned in, and looked Frey straight in the eye. "Well, Frey, let's get down to business." Zio's eyes flashed with rare seriousness, instantly putting Frey on alert. The joke was over, and now the real negotiation was about to begin. Zio leaned back with his usual carefree smile, cutting Frey off before he could guess any further intentions. "Join us and—" "No," Frey replied curtly, his gaze unwavering. Though his tone was gentle, his resolve was unmistakable. Zio chuckled, unsurprised, and shrugged. "Figures." Frey couldn't hide his skepticism and half-jokingly asked, "Was that supposed to be some scheme to get me to leave the guild and weaken it?" Zio turned away, smiling as if nothing serious was at stake. "Well, to be fair, I didn't think that'd work." Resting his hand on the table, he looked Frey in the eye with a completely different expression. No more jokes, no more probing, but a clear proposal. "Straight to the point, how about we form a non-aggression pact?" All the earlier turmoil was just a prelude to this. And now the political game between guilds officially began. The plan Zio proposed was simple: just cooperate enough to defeat Nord Glacier without being detected. He smiled cunningly, not hiding his intent. "We'll take first place, of course, but as our ally, we get you to place up at the top as well." The offer was sweet, a guaranteed second place for a small guild like Frey and Krim, along with countless benefits, generous rewards for high rankings, easier recruitment in the future, and above all, territorial control once the tournament ended. Illustrations of weapons, traps, soldiers, and fortresses painted a powerful future that Zio envisioned for this alliance. With a slightly wavering gaze, Frey couldn't help but admit inwardly, "That's not a bad deal." But no matter how tempting the offer, this was still a game full of traps, and this choice would change everything. Frey calmly declined the cooperation offer with a simple yet meaningful reason: "We won't necessarily even make it to the finals." He downplayed his own guild to deny the value of the deal, or perhaps to avoid the trap, yet his eyes showed no retreat. "Even when you've made that same promise with other guilds already?" Frey's counter-question cut through Zio's strategic facade like a knife. But instead of anger, Zio just smiled politely and replied, "Feel free to reach out if you decide to change your mind." No pressure, no threats, just an open invitation even after being rejected. The slight smile and final words, "even after spitting on my offer," carried a dangerous undertone, gentle, yet fully aware that the game was still unfolding and this move might not be the last. Zio smiled as if tossing out a sweet invitation, but in truth it was a sharp bait. Krim, Saul Leon geniuses who always fight fair and still stand at the top, aren't you just sick of them? His words struck at the unspoken injustice no one dared admit. Even if they lose, everyone will still love them. True enough, which is why they always win in reputation. What about ordinary people? Frey, though somewhat shaken by this truth, stood firm. As her rival, I won't stoop that low. His answer wasn't arrogant, just the firm principle of someone unwilling to tread the path of dishonesty, even if it meant always trailing behind natural geniuses. But Zio didn't stop. Don't you want a level playing field? A gentle closing remark, yet powerful enough to stir the deepest beliefs within his opponent. This was no longer about winning or losing, but about being allowed to fight as an equal. Zio didn't care about the stuck-together relationship between Frey and Krim. He had only one question. It's only as long as Krim acknowledges you, then? His words pierced Frey's pride like needles, exposing a truth he always avoided. Are you even a blip on her radar? That question needed no answer. Frey might think he was standing shoulder to shoulder with her, but in Krim's eyes, the real rival was Saul Leon. And Frey, no matter how resilient, couldn't deny that bitter reality. Zio stepped closer to Frey, his voice sweet yet venomous, whispering into his ear like poison mixed with honey. Krim is only focused on defeating the king of the arena, right? Do you think that's true? Frey could only respond with a strained voice. I don't know. But Zio wouldn't let him off. His hand rested on Frey's shoulder, eyes piercing through him. So what? Don't you feel sick? Then the final blow struck like a knife. Geniuses don't care about people like you. Frey could only stare blankly, speechless before a truth his heart had never dared to face. Krim silently gazed out into the endless void beyond the railing, the words he had just heard still echoing in his mind. I know it frustrates me. Geniuses only look up to the summit. The girl didn't turn around, but every word was like a needle piercing Frey's pride. Your status can vanish in an instant like smoke. She paused, then delivered the final, steel-cold line. As long as you're content with second place, don't expect to be seen as her equal. Frey clenched his fists, his eyes darkening. Night fell, closing chapter 63, leaving behind an unnamed torment. Frey still couldn't shake off the echo of the last words. Content with second place. Those words kept repeating in his head like a mocking echo. Outside, the atmosphere began to stir, breaking the silence in the room. Zio glanced out the window, his eyes seemingly probing Frey's reaction. You should go help her before she gets caught. The words were light, but felt like a reminder that the time for hesitation was over. Frey hesitated, his voice choking. Are you going to ignore this? But before he could finish, a chaotic shout rang out from outside. FREEUHHHI Freight Train KUN. Once again, the situation forced Frey to act. The decision still hung in the balance, but his pride had been deeply shaken. Frey stood frozen at the threshold, Zio's words still echoing in his mind. There's a type of person who always doubts everything. Even without evidence, they'll think something shady is going on. Though the tone was gentle, each word felt like a sharp blade. I won't expose you, Zio said as he turned away, but you'd better leave. Frey didn't respond, only watching the retreating figure, his heart tangled with gratitude, shame, and anger at himself. He whispered, unable to finish the sentence, as if he couldn't yet name the emotions rising within him. Just as Krim came rushing over, panting and stammering that everything had been exposed, Frey snapped out of his chaotic thoughts. Frey, finally found you, Krim said urgently. They must have discovered us the moment we split up. Frey glanced back, where Zio still stood calmly, his voice resonating in Frey's mind. If you change your mind, let me know. A tempting invitation, as if a seed of doubt had been planted. But not now. Frey gritted his teeth, resolute. Sorry, I'm going. And together with Krim, he dashed down the long corridor, leaving behind an unresolved choice. As Frey and Krim fled, one of their teammates suddenly appeared, tossing them paper bags and shouting, Put these on quickly. Frey barely had time to react before his head was covered, and he panicked, shouting, Yua, but the friend's voice remained calm. Don't worry, they won't see our faces. While Frey was panting and trying to calm down, a mechanical voice sounded. Permission if you want, I've already mapped out a route to lose them. A bit chaotic, a bit silly, but in this situation, it was the only glimmer of hope amid the frantic escape. Frey's group, wearing paper masks, followed the guidance of the strange flying creature, gradually sinking into a deserted corridor. Leading the way, the small creature stammered, Please follow me? While the group hurried to escape, a pair of eyes watched from afar. It was Zio, a faint smile on his lips, as if everything was going according to plan. The game between the guilds was far from over. It had only just begun. They watched the backs of Frey's group disappear into the rain, observing and discussing. Seems like an interesting guild, Zio remarked calmly, his eyes sparkling. A girl beside him added, and just like that they're gone, a hint of regret in her voice. Zio half joked, half serious. Maybe I should join them, then shook his head, chuckling softly. Nah, that's just wishful thinking. Meanwhile, the analysis team had completed their report on the fifth member traveling with them. Her name is Lycoris, a sniper ranked 263rd on the mercenary leaderboard. The data also suggested she might be a dwarf, a gnome, or a special race. Will she replace Ryunosuke? Someone asked. Looks like it, the other replied shortly. In the shadows, as one group departed, another began to make their move in the game. 263rd? That placed her among the top players. In theory, if they had resolved major stability issues with her sniping skills, her actual rank could be even higher. But a note appeared. High skill, but extremely weak under pressure. Never finishes well in critical moments, always collapses. She couldn't handle the pressure of being the last survivor, so whenever that happened, she tended to take reckless risks. Meanwhile, two people walking down the corridor behind were talking. They ate one of the sample dishes priced at 200,000 fall, right? The other sighed. Still not that bad. But then hesitated. Still, should we really let them get away like that? That cost us a fortune. Oh, yikes, they ate all 18 portions, totaling 3.6 million fall. Well, we did leave them in a public area, right? Once we decide to give away free food, of course we have to accept the cost loss. However, there's no need to worry too much. Our kitchen must have been happy to handle that. Actually, we also got some interesting items from that deal, didn't we? Yeah, that's true, but... The sound of rain grew heavier, the furniture creaked, and the sliding door opened. If they come to the door themselves, everything becomes much easier, right? Amid the rain tapping on the paper window and the darkness of night, the eyes of the person sitting behind the desk grew sharp as they placed their hand on a file with Krim's photo, the innocent smile in the picture making the contrast even clearer. Outside, footsteps splashed in puddles, signaling the next act had begun. Under the heavy rain, Krim's group panted but felt relieved, having narrowly escaped the chase. The plan had gone exactly as intended, and most importantly, they had obtained information about the opponent's food. Though soaked and exhausted, the group's spirits were high. As Lycoris separated to prepare the retreat point, a member called out to Frey seriously, as if there was something left unsaid. Meanwhile, the guiding bot immediately reported the pickup location, opening the next leg of their journey through the unrelenting rain. Krim looked at Frey suspiciously, asking directly if he had gained any information from the previous conversation. The question pierced the silence stretched between the heavy raindrops. Frey hesitated. His face showed confusion, eyes avoiding contact, as if struggling to weigh honesty against the burden of unspeakable truths. Behind them, the other members began sensing something was off in the atmosphere. Frey responded with a quiet lie. No, I didn't talk to anyone. Amid the heavy rain, each drop seemed to blend into the oppressive silence. His back stood apart from the group, eyes distant as if trapped in tangled thoughts. Though he had decided to remain silent, something still echoed in his heart, an unshakable crack between loyalty and unnamed insecurity. Chapter 64 closed with the rain, leaving more questions than answers. Under the blazing sunlight of a new day, Krim and Frey chatted casually about the upcoming quarterfinal match. Although they hadn't received any news from their new ally, the Odoru Boyu Guild, both seemed to have anticipated the prolonged silence. Frey speculated that this was probably the type of guild that only shows up on match day, which wasn't unusual given how different guilds prepare in various ways. Some plan meticulously, others take a more laid-back, adaptive approach. During their conversation, a humorous scene interrupted them. A worm was swiftly pecked by a bird, serving as a silent metaphor for the weak being mercilessly eliminated. Krim concluded nonchalantly, if their ally wasn't planning, their group might as well prepare on their behalf. Chapter 65 opens with a relaxed atmosphere, but beneath it lies subtle strategic scheming being unveiled. While the group rested before the quarterfinals, Frey sat reading a preliminary report on their upcoming opponents. Krim curiously asked and was told it contained qualifying round data on the Black Rabbit and Skyrunner's teams, two names they would face. While some members busied themselves repairing equipment or playing around, Frey maintained his usual calm demeanor, eyes glued to the document without wavering. Krim quietly observed him, thinking, Frey, still acting as always. Despite preparations for the fierce battle ahead, Frey's composure served as a steady anchor amid the approaching storm. Krim watched Frey with a pensive gaze. While everyone was busy checking materials and fixing the guild hall, she couldn't shake a feeling of unease. When they escaped from ADT, Frey clearly seemed off, almost as if hiding something. Yet for now, he behaved as usual, revealing no cracks. Krim sighed softly, reassuring herself that maybe she was just overthinking. Temporary repairs finished, the team returned to their daily routine, but that lingering doubt simmered within her, a something left unsaid. On the eve of the quarterfinals, the group made the most of their remaining time to train. Everyone took initiative. Some planned to go to Valhalla to hone PvP skills, others prepared materials to repair the guild hall, and some sought out chess matches to learn strategies. The overall spirit was clear. Despite imperfections, everyone was doing their best. The guild's atmosphere was light yet determined, each person focused in their own way but united by a common goal, ready for the decisive upcoming round. The group took turns sharing their training plans before the match. Some went hunting, others aimed to sharpen their shooting and specialized skills, while some focused on gathering intel on opponents. When Lycoris mentioned her unique abilities, everyone was surprised to learn she belonged to the Namashina subrace, unable to learn magic but possessing exceptional physical stats. She admitted she hadn't tried to hide it, just hadn't found the right moment to share. The mood remained light, but it was clear everyone was steadily working to improve themselves for the forthcoming showdown. Yunosuke had just arrived and was quickly teased by the group as the only normal person in a guild full of special races. The relaxed atmosphere suddenly dimmed when Lycoris, who had bravely shared her different identity, was unexpectedly embarrassed. She instinctively shrank back, hiding in a corner, feeling scrutinized. The group immediately noticed her reaction and tried to comfort her, but it was too late. Her awkwardness returned as before. A small moment that highlighted the fragility of trust and Lycoris's own vulnerability. Lycoris screamed in shock upon discovering her father, Yunosuke, had unexpectedly appeared at the guild hall. She was so flustered she couldn't hide her emotions, while Yunosuke cheerfully greeted his daughter as if it were just an ordinary reunion. The other guild members reacted with a fed-up silence since they had all known beforehand. Frey, Elves, the Fox Girl, and the group all chimed in. "Haven't you ever looked at the member list?" No one was surprised except Lycoris. She continued to look bewildered. Really in the same guild? It must be fate. A small but humorous twist that made the bond between members feel more vivid. The shocking truth spread like wildfire. Lycoris and Yunosuke were father and daughter. The whole group gasped in astonishment, shouting "Dad!" in utter disbelief. Everyone was stunned because no one had ever heard Lycoris mention this, not even herself. When Yunosuke casually asked, "Oh, you didn't know?" the group erupted with reactions. "Definitely not. How can such an old guy have such a cute daughter?" Frey tried to stay calm but couldn't hide his curiosity. Yunosuke explained he had planned to bring Lycoris into the guild from the start but delayed it, worried she was too shy. One member concluded, "No one would have guessed they were father and daughter." A bizarre but charming family introduction. Yunosuke recounted Lycoris's past. She was always good at every game, but that very talent gradually distanced her from her friends. Once when the group faced a major challenge, only Lycoris passed it easily. She couldn't understand why everyone else failed. That gap created tension within the group, forming an invisible barrier. Yunosuke, as her father, let her take a few more steps on her own, hoping she would mature. But that moment also marked the beginning of her isolation, the heavy, invisible price of talent. Unbeknownst to her, Lycoris was always afraid of rejection, afraid of hurting her friends again. She kept making mistakes, held back by her own excessive caution. But now everything had changed. That anxiety seemed to have vanished. Her father, Yunosuke, felt that playing games with his daughter at this moment was truly worthwhile. To him, this moment, when Lycoris dared to step out of her fear, was the greatest reward. He was deeply grateful that someone had helped his daughter regain her confidence. Lycoris was still awkward, not used to playing with others, but the atmosphere had lightened. Everyone gradually shifted to a new topic, a rare material she had just picked up. This item could enhance a unique equipment, but only usable in a specific area. She wasn't sure what the upgrade would yield, but everyone guessed her familiar red cloak would change. The mood grew lively as they began discussing and planning how to help her find the enhancement location. Lycoris was determined to upgrade her unique cloak, a piece that had once been just an ordinary red cloak but could now become the cloak of the young Red Lion Emperor. She had heard stories of someone enhancing unique weapons and unlocking a special skill called Pile Bunker. This surprised the group because of the upgrade's great potential. Lycoris couldn't hide her excitement. This was the only thing she wanted to do right now. Without further words, the group united. It was time to act. Lycoris stared at the cloak's description. 11 Shadows Guard for the monarch quietly rests here. The only clue she had to upgrade her unique equipment. But it was too vague. A graveyard, a royal tomb. In a game world with countless fallen nations, the possible locations were nearly endless. Time was tight, the quarterfinals were about to begin, and she had no direction at all. Lycoris muttered helplessly, if things continued like this, the upgrade would never happen. Raijin once possessed a destructive skill just by upgrading unique equipment. If Lycoris could achieve the same, she could completely turn the tide of the match. While she was still puzzled by the riddle 11 Shadows Guard, for the monarch quietly rests here. An unexpected hint came from a teammate, the place where she found the cloak near a land called Navel. Just outside Navel was Flower Hill, a hill covered with flowers and a tomb. The name, the location, all matched the clue. Lycoris's eyes lit up. Perhaps she had just found her first lead. Chapter 66 opens at the eastern edge of Flower Hill, a meadow bursting with vibrant flowers right next to Navel. The scenery leaves Lycoris and her companions in awe. While she is stunned by the beauty so close yet never noticed before, her companion confirms having seen a few scattered graves around here. The clue from the cloak seems to be gradually leading them to the right place. The challenge, called the Trial of the Monarch, has begun. As the two split up to search, Lycoris heads toward the stretch of flowers. She repeats the word grave in her mind, trying to connect it with the vague clue from the cloak. At first, the scenery is too bright, making her doubt. This doesn't look like a cemetery. But then she freezes. Before her stands a cluster of stone towers silently rising amid the flower field. 11 shadows standing guard. The mission clue flashes in her mind. And as if destined, the system confirms a new quest. The Young Rule. A hidden quest chain has been triggered. Lycoris whispers softly, eyes shining, "No way is it here." As Lycoris approaches the cluster of stone markers, a figure cloaked in black silently appears among the flowers. The atmosphere turns eerily still, petals falling around them like a silent ritual beginning. The figure speaks in a low but gentle voice. "I have waited for you a long time." His face half hidden beneath the hood, lips curling into a smile. "A pleasure to meet you, young master." Without any further explanation, Lycoris understands that her trial has officially begun. The cloaked figure stands among the stone markers, his voice soft yet commanding. "Young master, it seems you've grown quite fond of that cloak." Lycoris freezes, eyes fixed on the unfamiliar silhouette, her hand unconsciously clutching the edge of her garment. "If you don't heed my words," he continues calmly, "then please step forward now. I am not your enemy." Lycoris hesitates but remains wary, knowing well that someone who is not an enemy isn't necessarily a friend. Lycoris steps before the tombstone where the cloaked figure quietly waits. She asks, "Are you the gravekeeper?" The calm nod in response. "Yes, this is the resting place of Eurylaya Argentsama, the Scarlet Empress, the foundation of our nation." She thinks to herself, surely a special NPC for a rare equipment event. "That cloak," he continues, "was once worn by Eurylaya-sama." Lycoris's eyes widen. "It has lost its original power over time." But the cloaked figure extends his hand. "If you've come here, it must be to reclaim it, right?" Lycoris nods firmly. "Yes, I want to awaken its power again." When Lycoris presents the spacetime snapshot crystal, the cloaked figure's eyes flicker briefly. "Oh, you possess a rare item," she adds with hope in her voice. "It can awaken the cloak's power, right?" The cloaked figure nods, whispering, "The enhancement event has begun. Each unique equipment has its own scenario to complete." Lycoris beams, excitedly urging, "Then let's start." Unable to contain her excitement, she clasps her hands, bows slightly, and hurriedly says, "Please enchant it, please." "Thank you so much," the cloaked figure chuckles softly. "I see you've changed quite a bit lately." The cloaked figure speaks in a deep tone, eyes gazing into the distance amid falling petals. The situation across the continent is growing increasingly chaotic, and this unrest is far from over. Lycoris tilts her head slightly, guessing. Is she referring to the number of players? The cloaked figure continues. Just in the past month, the number of active adventurers has surged. At any moment, this brief period of peace could end. At this, Lycoris's eyes sharpen as she recalls the upcoming update, the territory control system in the open world. She grits her teeth, thinking, "I know, every town, every city will be drawn into this war." As Lycoris brings the spacetime snapshot crystal close to the stone tomb, a swirling energy erupts, enveloping the cloak hanging in midair. The gravekeeper speaks solemnly. "When the flames of war spread once more across this wretched world, I have one thing to entrust to you." Light envelops the ancient tombstone, and in that moment the fate of the cloak and its new master is sealed. The light crystallized from the spacetime snapshot merged with the spiritual energy at the tombstone, and the cloak slowly lifted, glowing brilliantly as if awakening the dormant memories of a monarch. The gravekeeper spoke solemnly. "Protect this town so the queen may rest in peace." Her gaze brightened, her whole body trembling with emotion as the newly awakened cloak flew toward her. "May this cloak bring you closer to the queen," the gravekeeper smiled softly. A new chapter had begun. The new cloak sparkled in the sunlight, fluttering across the flower field as if born to belong to her. The girl's eyes shone with determination, her hand gripping the spacetime snapshot now fused with the iconic outfit of EURELIA. Nothing held her back, nothing to fear, only the mission to protect and move forward. Amid the falling petals, she stood there as a true heir, carrying the queen's will. Though the cloak had changed shape, radiating a more majestic aura than ever, the mission was far from over. The gravekeeper seriously reminded her, the cloak had not yet fully recognized her as its owner. To completely awaken its power, she must prove her strength before the legacy of the Scarlet Empress. Not just to possess it, but to be worthy. The real journey was only just beginning. A piercing whistle tore through the silent flower field. From above, a massive greatsword slammed down right before her. Her eyes widened in shock, clutching the newly upgraded cloak, lips trembling as she stammered, "TH, that's?" She recognized the object, a legendary symbol of power. The challenge she needed to overcome had finally appeared in the form of a battle. There was no turning back. A gigantic black scythe lay in her hands, so large and heavy it made her stagger. Whoa, that's heavy. No weapon in Du had ever made her struggle like this. She gritted her teeth, eyes flashing with excitement and anxiety. This thing has got to have some serious firepower. Knowing mastering it wouldn't be easy, she still accepted the challenge. "Make full use of this power," the gravekeeper's deep voice echoed. This was the latent strength a noble red like her had to prove worthy of. No retreat, only the choice to advance and become the true master of the scythe. Right here, the Red Lion Emperor would acknowledge her, but only if she could overcome the final trial. A ghostly figure, the very one who had defeated her before, the rival she always regarded as her greatest opponent, materialized before her. "Please destroy it," the gravekeeper's voice stirred unresolved memories. Saul Leon, the lone swordsman, appeared with a cold demeanor, and the ground began to shake. She gripped the scythe's handle tightly, determination surging. If she couldn't defeat him, she wasn't worthy of the Red Lion Emperor's cloak. This was the battle to prove everything. The ground cracked beneath her feet, red light surged like hellfire rising, and from the earth's depths, a giant stone-crowned creature emerged with a grotesque, demonic form. The girl screamed in horror, "Wait, you meant this thing?" The truth struck like thunder. The enemy she had to defeat was not Saul Leon, but this monster. Chapter 66 closed with the explosion of truth and the beginning of a challenge beyond all expectations. Chapter 67 opens with a peaceful scene at Flower Hill, a strangely tranquil moment that compels Ryunosuke, who works with image recording, to raise his camera and take a shot. He tells himself it's probably a professional habit, but he can't deny the captivating beauty of the natural surroundings. Yet before he can fully savor the silence, the ground suddenly shakes violently. Ryunosuke staggers, confused whether it's a real earthquake or just an unexpected in-game event. He turns his head, his eyes darkening, a warning about to strike. The chapter is titled, "Scythe and Waltz," hinting at a deadly dance about to begin. Ryunosuke's eyes widen in horror as a giant sandworm suddenly bursts up amid the flower forest, a creature normally found only in deserts, now tearing apart this peaceful landscape. He steps back, bewildered, asking himself, "Why is this thing here?" In his panic, his gaze flickers to an unusual weapon gleaming in the air, wielded by a familiar figure rushing into battle. "Wait, is that Krim?" he exclaims. Seeing the massive scythe and her stance, Ryunosuke begins to realize this must be the next part of the equipment upgrade quest, a mission not for the faint-hearted. Krim charges into the confrontation with the sandworm, but immediately realizes the terrifying disparity. The giant monster opens its mouth full of sharp teeth, ready to swallow anything whole. "Damn it, I'm way too high up," she hisses inwardly, gripping the newly acquired giant scythe tightly but unable to find a way to control it properly. Panic rises as she understands. If she falls from this height, even with fall damage resistance, she'll die instantly. A series of wrong choices now thrusts her into the deadly wind, where her new power is still uncontrollable, and the opponent is too formidable to afford mistakes. Krim barely manages to cling to a rock ledge, narrowly escaping death. But before her lies a terrifying reality. The monster she's facing is no ordinary foe. A sandworm, a powerful roaming beast usually found only in deserts, is now present in a flower field. Having never defeated one and currently suffering an 8% reduction in all stats, Krim fully understands the disadvantage she's in. She grits her teeth, staring intently at the giant creature's spiraling jaws. Under the gentler sunlight than the desert, the chance of victory remains slim, but not impossible. Krim grips the giant scythe tightly, her eyes flashing with determination. The power of noble red, awakened by this cloak, she whispers, as if both convincing and encouraging herself. She looks up at the weapon in her hands and asks, "So, can I trust you?" But just as her fighting spirit rises, a terrified scream echoes from the teammate being slowly swallowed by the sandworm's mouth. "Oh my God! No, don't eat me!" The desperate cries and struggling legs send a chill down Krim's spine. This battle is not just a test of strength, but a challenge of courage and quick decision-making. As the fight reaches a critical moment, Krim is suddenly swallowed by the sandworm amid everyone's panic. A teammate shouts in alarm, "Hey, what are you doing? Getting swallowed means instant death." But the gravekeeper calmly replies, "Now is the time for her intellect and bravery to be tested." From afar, a desperate shout of "CRA" rings out. Yet as the sandworm closes its jaws and silence falls, the cowboy utters a dry, hollow "oh." All hope seems to have been swallowed along with her. Krim miraculously holds on before being fully swallowed, yelling, "That was way too close." Sweating profusely, she forces herself to grip the giant sandworm's teeth. "I won't let this monster eat me again." But when she looks up straight into the swirling black jaws before her, the VR nightmare floods back. "This is the worst part of VR," she pants, panic in her eyes as the massive mouth begins to spin again. Spat out from the monster's mouth, Krim's body is soaked in slime. She grimaces in disgust, calling it the second worst experience of her gaming life. Even knowing it's all just a simulation, the feeling is terrifyingly real. She realizes the urgency. If she doesn't act fast, the sandworm will swallow her again immediately. With the scythe in hand, Krim's eyes sharpen. She's made her decision. There's no room for hesitation. It's time to fight seriously. Krim tightened her grip on the giant scythe, her eyes blazing with determination. She knew clearly, not attacking meant failure. In the game, large weapons always perform best against giant monsters, but would that hold true in this world duel? There was no time to hesitate. She launched herself into the air, shouting as if to banish her fear. "There's only one way to find out." This was not just a weapon test, but a true measure of her courage. Krim thundered down, yelling "ORAA" as she swung the scythe at the giant sandworm's head. But instead of slicing, the scythe stabbed straight into its steel-like shell. Her eyes widened. "I meant to slash, so why did it stab and get stuck like this?" The weapon was now lodged firmly in the monster's body, impossible to pull out. Krim gritted her teeth, clearly feeling the tide turn. One small mistake could turn this fight into a tragedy. Krim tried to pull the scythe out of the monster's body, but it was stuck deep due to the stabbing rather than slashing, a typical rookie mistake from unfamiliarity with the weapon's angle. "Why was I so reckless?" She gritted her teeth, panicking as she realized the sandworm was starting to move. On the ground, her teammates looked up anxiously. "Is she stuck?" "No, she's pulled it out." But before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the monster began to dive underground, taking anyone clinging to it along. Krim clung to the writhing sandworm, its thrashing causing the ground to shatter. In a precarious yet determined stance, she shouted, "I'm on its flank, now's the time," signaling the start of a coordinated attack. She swung the scythe, spinning midair to build momentum for the next strike. The whole team held their breath, watching her lightning-fast movements as the counterattack began. Krim shouted loudly, her voice echoing across the vibrant flower field. "Show me all your firepower." The scythe in her hand traced a blazing arc, tearing through the thick scales of the sandworm. Energy from the fiery red cloak radiated with every movement, shaking the air and cracking the ground. The attack carried all her strength and the power of noble red, marking a turning point in the battle. The slash left a deep gash on the sandworm's body, thrilling Krim so much she yelled out in joy. But immediately after, she was thrown back, rolling several times on the ground. Though she had control over the power, Krim still couldn't manage the weight and momentum of the scythe. She groaned softly as she stood, eyes fixed on the giant creature ahead. It was still alive. "I need to calculate carefully when unleashing consecutive strikes," she thought. The scythe gleamed in her hand, while the sandworm slowed as if wary. But Krim knew, just one more strike and it would be over. Krim gripped the scythe's handle tightly, her eyes shining with exhilaration. Each heavy swing felt like taming a wild beast. The gash on the sandworm's body deepened, shards of energy bursting like fireworks across the battlefield. She panted, her body straining to maintain balance, but instead of fear or hesitation, Krim smiled. A wild, radiant, passionate smile. "Crazy, but I can't stop smiling." Facing death, she was truly alive. Chapter 67 end. Krim entered Chapter 68 with a proud gaze, a smug smile etched on her face. Although the sandworm was still alive and thrashing in the valley, she remained unshaken. In the distance, her companion could only watch, unable to intervene or help, admitting only that they were a hindrance. As for Krim, she decisively turned back to face her old challenger, her voice sharp and resolute. "Don't think you can defeat me again. You're just a training dummy for my scythe." The storm was only just beginning. Krim stood firm against the relentless assault of the giant monster. With a powerful swing, she leapt into the air, her eyes blazing with confidence. "If you keep charging around like that," she gritted her teeth, the scythe gleaming in the sunlight, "I'll be the one to set the pace of this fight." She swung her scythe hard into the sandworm's side, accompanied by a roaring shout. "Oryah!" It wasn't a reckless strike, but a declaration of battlefield dominance. Krim raced along the sandworm's back as if she were controlling it herself. With each forceful swing of her scythe, the giant beast changed direction, roaring in fury. "Wait, is she the one making it turn around?" The young man's eyes widened in surprise. Meanwhile, the cloaked figure nodded in approval. "She's controlling the sandworm? Impressive skill." But this was no longer a performance. The massive body was charging straight toward the cliff edge. "It's heading straight for the precipice." Krim sprang off the sandworm's back in a decisive leap, her giant scythe still shimmering with the echoes of the fierce battle. She landed amid a cloud of dust as the giant monster lost control and barreled toward the abyss. "All right," she muttered, breathing a sigh of relief. "That's enough." Behind her, the thunderous crash of collapsing rocks mixed with rising dust marked the end of a wild counterattack. Krim smirked, her eyes glowing with excitement. "I know full well that's not nearly enough." In the darkness of the chasm, where sunlight was blocked, she felt her body lighten. The debuff had vanished. Though not fully restored, the true potential of a noble red was beginning to awaken. The status bar inside rose by 10%, the first sign she was returning to her strongest form. Krim hurtled downward at an unimaginable speed, her hair whipping wildly through the air. "Just aim this scythe right," she gritted her teeth, tensing her arm muscles, "and channel all the momentum and weight." Below, the cloaked figure watched silently, muttering, "No, that trajectory, it's not aimed at the monster's mouth." But Krim was determined. This strike would be the finishing blow. Krim screamed, her scythe spinning like a storm before slashing into the giant sandworm's side. "Oryah!" A thunderous explosion echoed, the monster howled, and its HP bar shattered like broken glass. Power, gravity, and speed combined into a lethal strike, a blow that tore through defenses and penetrated deep into the flesh. This was more than combat. It was the proclamation of a player who had seized control of the stage. Krim shouted in exhilaration, the previous slash smooth as cutting through butter, sweet, clean, and utterly satisfying. The scythe whistled, monster blood sprayed like fireworks, and a radiant smile spread across her face. The onlookers still couldn't believe their eyes. Just moments ago, she was nearly swallowed whole, and now she danced through the battlefield as if it were a graceful waltz. The butterfly slash ended the sandworm in a single blow, decisive, fluid, far beyond what anyone had imagined. The HP bar drained completely, and the words "dead end" flashed brightly on the screen as a victory proclamation. The colossal corpse cracked and collapsed on the battlefield, scattering data fragments into the air. Silence fell, replaced only by awe. Krim had single-handedly split a high-level monster in two, as effortlessly as slicing a butterfly in the wind. Krim raised her fist, her radiant smile betraying her exhilaration. She had just claimed the sweetest victory yet. "Sweet, sweet revenge," rang out like a fiery declaration of vengeance. But in her mind, tactical calculations kept running. Her stance was still unsteady, the landing imperfect, and the scythe's full potential yet untapped. Still, she had decided, before the semifinals, this weapon would be her specialty. An exhilarating win, but also a statement. This was only the beginning. Krim lay amidst a field of flowers bathed in shattered light after the battle, her hands still gripping the scythe as if afraid it might disappear. A faint smile appeared on her lips, her eyes sparkling with admiration and excitement. "This might just be my new favorite weapon." Not just because of its power, but because of the absolute freedom she felt, the moment she became one with the scythe in midair. The battle was over, but a new love had begun. Ryunosuke called out Krim's name across the flower field, his eyes full of excitement. "You did it! You defeated the sandworm all by yourself." Krim beamed brightly, looking up at her approaching companion. "Yeah, it's one of those prove-your-worth missions." She exhaled softly, still feeling the echoes of the fight. When asked about the reward, a surprised "huh" escaped her as her cloak suddenly glowed. The nearby hooded figure gently confirmed. "It seems the young Red Lion Emperor has acknowledged her value." After slaying the sandworm and receiving recognition from the Red Lion Emperor, Krim was notified that a new power had fully awakened within her. She learned two new skills, Blood Magic Bloodthorn, summoning spikes from the ground, and Azrael's Ring, throwing a spinning scythe with devastating force. Ryunosuke realized why Krim wielded a scythe and laughed. "So that's why you brought the scythe?" Krim nodded, her eyes shining. She knew that with enough practice before the tournament, these moves would give her the upper hand in unexpected matchups. The scythe was no longer just a weapon, but a symbol of her newly unlocked power. A voice echoed, as if reminding her, "Return when the time comes." After completing the mission and being acknowledged by the Red Lion Emperor, Krim left quietly, leaving her two companions standing in the memorial stone field. "She's gone, but she completed the mission," Ryunosuke sighed, watching her leave. There was nothing left but to prepare for the tournament. They quickly returned to the guild hall to begin training. 2 days later, the atmosphere shifted completely. The official quarterfinals had begun. However, before entering the fierce qualifiers, they still had one task to do. "Today is quarterfinal day. Everyone get ready." Krim stepped forward, her gaze determined. "But first..." After returning from the mission, Krim gathered the team to announce something important. With a radiant smile, she held up a paper. "Among many suggestions, our guild will now be called Luachea." The name caused a stir. "Cute and trendy, I like it," Krim added, while Lycoris, who proposed the name, blushed shyly. Thank you all so much." But when a member asked what Luachea meant, the smiles gradually faded. "Well, they charge a fee to rename the guild," Krim sighed. "Then let's just keep Genocide Abyss. Nice to meet you," someone grumbled. "Wait, I'll pay the renaming fee," Krim snapped, fully aware she was falling into the guild's teasing trap. Lycoris explained that the name Luachea means full moon in Portuguese, a choice rich with vampire imagery since Krim is a vampire. She wanted a name that evoked the moon. The group began debating. Some suggested using Chinese characters for full moon. Others wanted to keep the English for coolness, while Lycoris blushed and insisted, "It's Portuguese, you know." Despite the commotion, the name Luachea was officially confirmed when Krim pressed the beep button to finalize the guild's renaming. Ryunosuke quickly designed the guild emblem, impressing everyone. He even knows how to do that. And so the guild was officially reborn under its new name, Luachea****. Beneath the Gothic full moon and bat emblem, the entire group raised their weapons in unison. With a rallying cry, "Reborn as Luachea, let us now depart." They affirmed a new beginning, strong and confident on the eve of the quarterfinals. More than just a name, Luachea had become a symbol of unity and the aspiration to conquer the summit. With a sharp gaze and a provocatively subtle challenge, Waltzing Grave made its official appearance, not as an enemy, but as an ally on the same side. While the Luachea members were still adjusting to their new name, they faced a cryptic question. "Shall we dance together this time around?" A battlefield waltz had begun, and Chapter 68 closed, leaving the echoes of a battle about to erupt, where alliances and strength would be tested together. Chapter 69 opens with the unexpected appearance of the Waltzing Grave group, once a notorious PK guild on Rakume Mountain. Their reunion sends shockwaves through Luachea. No one expected former enemies to now stand on the same side. Though still skeptical, Ryunosuke and Krim have to accept. But this time, they are allies. The tense past is set aside, making way for a fateful alliance between two opposing factions. The game has turned a new page, and no one knows if this partnership will lead to victory or a new trap. Despite appearing friendly and extending a hand for peace, the leader of Waltzing Grave keeps everyone on edge. Her smile is too sweet, her gaze too sharp. Luachea's members aren't easily fooled, a fake smile, Krim thinks silently. The atmosphere is taut as a drawn bowstring. Though both sides are forced to cooperate, hostility has never truly left. The match hasn't started yet, but the psychological battle lines are already drawn. The atmosphere of reconciliation lasts only a few seconds. Krim politely shakes hands, but his eyes remain sharp. A Waltzing Grave member trembles in response, sensing a deadly aura despite facing only a young girl. Both sides try to maintain a friendly facade, but tension explodes the moment Krim mentions the press slander incident. Though the other side chuckles it off, the accusation cracks the fragile truce. They shake hands, but their fingers grip tightly as if gearing up for a silent deathmatch. The scene shifts to the main arena. Under the dazzling stage lights, AI-chan, the adorable announcer and host bot, makes a grand entrance, energizing the tournament atmosphere. She officially declares the start of the Guild-ranked tournament quarterfinals. The teams, including Luachea and Waltzing Grave, will give their all to claim glory. The event is broadcast system-wide, kicking off a series of matches where reputation and skill will be showcased without mercy. The atmosphere erupts as the arena transitions to night. The moment of battle has arrived. AI-chan continues to lead with high enthusiasm, announcing the tournament's official progression into 3 fierce rounds: quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Among 64 guilds, only one will claim the ultimate crown. The prize is not just dazzling fame, but also a treasure trove of rewards coveted by all. Luochea and the remaining teams are about to enter the decisive stage, where only the strongest will be remembered. Tension rises before the quarterfinal match. Some members begin to worry while others tease, but there's no time to be afraid. AI-chan quickly announces the game mode. Capture the flag. Each group among the 16 brackets will compete on a random map. Luochea lands on a desert in town map, where walls are easily destroyed and the routes to the flag are dense with danger and opportunity. This will be the team's first real test of tactical skill. The rules for this round are announced: extremely simple. Capture the opponent's flag to win. Alternatively, eliminating the entire enemy team also counts as victory. The division of offense and defense is entirely up to each team. Some in Luochea feel relieved by the straightforward rules, but Krim immediately realizes it's precisely this simplicity that's the problem. Having to devise both attack and defense plans makes things much more complicated. This is not just a battle of strength, but a true tactical challenge. Krim argues that a balanced formation of 5 attackers and 5 defenders is the safest option but can be exploited if predicted. The enemy might pretend to follow the default strategy, then secretly send all defenders into the base for an ambush, while the front line only serves as a distraction. Everyone begins to grasp the complexity. One member suggests, so why not put all 10 people on defense? But faced with this odd idea, Lulu bluntly asks, but how do you win without attacking? Whether strategy or trickery, it's clear this match won't be easy to predict. All 10 on defense strategy is analyzed as a kind of camping, holding a fixed position and leveraging numerical advantage. With 10 defending against 5 attackers, the chance of victory is obvious. Then it's just a matter of pushing back the remaining 5 defenders. Some find this tactic boring, just a numbers game. One member suggests trying a baiting strategy instead of playing it safe. Amid serious discussion, someone suddenly snaps, "I'm the one you stabbed in the head, you idiot." Leaving Krim confused because he can't even remember who's speaking. Despite old clashes, the mood unexpectedly lightens because after all, they're all gamers and they're much more in character than in the qualifiers. Krim glanced around. The teams all looked formidable. This opponent was completely different. She exclaimed, "Every team looks strong." And indeed, they stood among the 64 strongest guilds in Duo. Names appeared: the Blaze Knights, Neo-Saitama Sabers, Sakura Fubuki, Missing Link, Black Wolf Squad, Obscure Depths, and Maid Gang from the Cafe Mocha Labor Union, each a distinct force with unique styles and combat spirits. Despite their differences, they shared one thing: survival through countless qualifying rounds. As Krim watched, someone suddenly called out, "Hey, guys, look over there." Another opponent was about to enter the arena. The legends of Duo were now gathering under one sky. This time, the opponent was the Black Rabbit Group, the 9th-ranked team in the preliminaries, a true powerhouse. While everyone acknowledged their strength, eyes couldn't help but linger on their tight uniforms and alluring high-cut outfits. Some of our members were stunned. "I get that they're strong, but you know," someone's voice faltered. "Stop staring at those skimpy outfits all day, you idiots." A sharp whisper tried to cut through the rising emotions. Even Leon said he's keeping an eye on them. Someone admitted, even though he was usually aloof, he couldn't resist human nature. Everyone felt pressure mixed with a bit of awkwardness, but one thing was undeniable: they were sexy. Kamiyuka-san posted an article about them. The information came up as the group skimmed through a newspaper. "You still buy those?" A murmur arose while the headline was clear: "Gold Rush, Duo's most ruthless strategy." Beneath the sensational title was a provocative image of the Black Rabbit team. "The strategy that got them 9th in prelims, leaving losers face down in the dirt." A dramatic description. "I don't get it at all," someone blurted out. "Looks unofficial to me," one commented, while another quickly got hooked. "I want to try it. Whoa, there's even betting on this." The last remark ended the chain of news, making the whole team suddenly realize this was no ordinary match anymore, but a game with bets placed even before it began. Just as I thought, waltzing grave, they were what worried her most this round. Although she knew they were shady, she couldn't stop herself from wondering, did PK and PvP mean two completely different things to them? After all, they recognized the name Luochea, that was certain. But what annoyed her most was their deliberate ignoring of the messages she had sent. "Hope I'm overthinking this." She quietly turned away as all preparations for the match were completed. On the other side, Frey was also trying to understand the situation, because in this world, a name was never just a label. Just as I thought, waltzing grave, they were what worried her most this round. Although she knew they were shady, she couldn't stop herself from wondering, did PK and PvP mean two completely different things to them? After all, they recognized the name Luachea, that was certain. But what annoyed her most was their deliberate ignoring of the messages she had sent. Hope I'm overthinking this. She quietly turned away as all preparations for the match were completed. On the other side, Frey was also trying to understand the situation, because in this world, a name was never just a label. The quarterfinal match officially ignited, the screen blazing as if opening up a colossal arena. AI-chan, the indispensable announcer of the tournament, clearly announced the rules. Each team is divided into two factions, red and blue, battling to capture the flag. Standing within a 2-meter circle around the flagpole begins charging the meter. When full, the flag belongs to that team. There are no longer any tactical limits. Only adaptability on the battlefield determines victory or defeat. Whether choosing to concentrate forces for an all-out attack or hold a solid defense, everyone must adapt to the situation. This is no longer the time for theory, but the moment of real combat that decides glory. On the screen, teams sequentially showcased their signature strategies. Some held their flank defenders with textbook precision, others poured all their strength into attacks like gods or reckless gamblers. The audience at the tavern buzzed with lively chatter, mixed with groans as both sides camped, a dull prospect. However, the red team in the in-town match did the unexpected. They threw all 10 players into a relentless opening assault. Facing their opponent for the first time in the tournament, they bet everything on this extreme playstyle. A bold strategy that would either be a lethal preemptive strike or a fatal misstep with no way back. The initial plan was nothing like this, at least in Frey and her group's minds. The opponent was supposed to defend, but now the whole team suddenly surged forward as if prearranged. Frey panicked, trying to stop them, but to no avail. They coldly replied, "We're just following your plan." A full-scale 10-player attack, completely unexpected. Who would execute such a crazy strategy? But now they had no choice but to follow, fully aware. This was a life-or-death gamble from the very first minute. Before Frey could stabilize the front line, the opponent flipped the situation again, this time proposing mixed teams. She was both confused and cautious, especially as the other group claimed unfamiliarity with the map to slip into her formation. "We're with you, right?" That gentle voice was like a dagger hidden in silk. Frey tightened her expression. This was clearly not the original defensive plan, mixed formations, in such a crucial qualifier. She began to realize the game Waltzing Grave was playing wasn't just tactics, it was total manipulation. As soon as the match started, Waltzing Grave brazenly broke the defensive agreement, charging the whole team forward as if it were obvious. "We just want to have fun." Their words and smiles sounded gentle, but their actions were full of schemes. Frey and her teammates realized the situation was spiraling out of control. The flag capture zone was completely unguarded, and the town's terrain was perfect for enemy infiltration. With no other choice, Frey immediately redeployed the formation. "Krim, Hinajiko, you two keep attacking. We'll fall back to defend." The match hadn't truly begun, but the psychological game was already clear. This was a game where whoever lost their cool first lost the match. While most members scrambled to reset their formation after the chaotic opening, the Black Rabbit group remained remarkably calm. One of them yawned, looking bored. "Looks like we'll have some free time now." But when a teammate asked, "Wait, where are you going? Our team's supposed to be holding the flag," the leader just replied lightly, "Ah, I know what to do." That fleeting smile wasn't just boredom. They weren't defending, they were planning. A different game. Instead of waiting hopelessly, the Black Rabbit leader decided to act first. "I'll defend by breaking straight into their base," she smirked mischievously. For her, offense was the best form of defense. Assigning simple tasks to those staying behind, she chose only 2 to accompany her. "Neon, Mobi, follow me." The rest just needed to watch and signal if anything happened. Everyone agreed, no objections. Clearly, this wasn't an ordinary defensive team, but a pack of rabbits with claws ready to tear the battlefield apart. Although initially assigned to defense, the Black Rabbit members charged forward like they were born to attack. "We're rabbits, speed is our advantage," one grumbled while having to guard the base. Despite dissatisfaction, they accepted letting the leader take the initiative. Meanwhile, another team, Skyrunners, shot forward like a flash of light. "They're even faster than us," came an astonished exclamation. On the battlefield, speed is the ultimate weapon, and the race had truly begun. Despite their heavy gnome bodies, the Skyrunners' team still broke away with overwhelming speed thanks to their skilled zipline technique. In a straight line, no team could match them. Seizing the opportunity, the Blue Flag team quickly took control of the central area of the map. Meanwhile, 3 members of the Black Rabbit group also left their defensive positions and began advancing. The battle was entering a critical phase, as speed and tactics started to redraw the map's dynamics. As the Skyrunners closed in on their target, they suddenly spotted suspicious movement ahead, human shape. Enemy spotted ahead. A quick order was given. Hide behind the rocks. The group swiftly changed formation, weighing 2 options, push onto the flag or ambush the enemy. Though still undetected, doubt arose. Could they trust that Frey's group would handle them? While the AI caster was stunned by the early event, the key question echoed. If you see it coming, should you ambush? Both sides were calculating their next moves, with every passing second potentially deciding the outcome. Red Team's internal chaos over inconsistent tactical decisions led to disputes between Frey and Lycoris. Observing the situation, the Skyrunners quickly noticed a weakness. Their formation is cracking. Seizing the moment, the commander ordered a change of plan. Ambush while they're still arguing, get some kills first. Meanwhile, the 3 members of the Black Rabbit group were closing in. The commentator doubted. Has the Red Team made a fatal mistake by pulling half their forces back to defend? Tensions escalated and a chaotic clash was about to erupt. End of Chapter 70. Chapter 71 opens at Group F stands, where the audience is closely following the tense developments. A large screen displays Krim and Lycoris fiercely arguing. Red Team's internal tactics have thrown the squad into chaos right as the match begins. The commentator remarks, arguing from the start, this is a disaster. A spectator chuckles bitterly. It's rare to see Krim lose his temper like this. Below the stands, Waltzing Grave, a member known for stirring controversy, responds coldly when asked why he's not fighting, just arranging the formation. The atmosphere grows increasingly tense, not only on the battlefield but also in the hearts of those watching. While Group F's Red Team remains mired in internal chaos, the Skyrunners swiftly seize the opportunity. With both Wire Anchor and Edgerunner skills ready, they simultaneously shift tactics, ambushing while the enemy is distracted by disputes. The terrain ahead is completely open, an ideal chance to strike. Without waiting for repeated orders, the heavy combat machines accelerate at full throttle. The race officially begins. The cold declaration echoes beneath their metal armor, signaling the start of a lightning-fast counterattack. Amid the intense fighting, Red Team is still embroiled in internal arguments. One side suggests letting the enemy pass and then capturing the flag faster, while the other wants to ambush to ease defensive pressure. Though both strategies make sense, the group cannot reach consensus. A member steps in to mediate, emphasizing that everyone has valid points. The key is to behave respectfully despite disagreements. But just as the tension slightly eases, a figure radiating deadly intent approaches. The air instantly thickens. Internal conflicts remain unresolved, and external threats have already arrived. While the team is still debating and struggling to stabilize their formation, a nightmare suddenly descends from the sky, the Skyrunners. With superior speed and grappling hook mobility, the lightning-fast flying squad cuts through the front lines and closes in the blink of an eye. Warnings sound too late. The team can only gasp in horror. They arrived that fast. The battle's dynamics shift dramatically, and clearly the slow side won't get a second chance. The Skyrunners don't just arrive quickly, they strike like thunder. The lightning assault leaves the defenders no time to react, some hit immediately. Amid the chaos, a battle machine warrior resolves to counterattack. We must take at least one down before retreating. The arena's brutality allows no hesitation. Every decision now carries life or death weight. Krim counters sharply, but the Skyrunner narrowly dodges. Air Ride activates, leaving a gust tearing through the ground. The blade slices the air. Krim grits his teeth, eyes cold. He really dodged that. Behind him, teammates shout, confirming safety. Yet Krim merely smirks, replying with his usual confidence, the one and only Krim-chan here. This is more than combat, it's a declaration of dominance among the strong. Beneath the Skyrunner's leader's sturdy armor lies a soft heart. He's a huge fan of Krim. Just escaped from battle, now blushing because his angel is so adorably stupid, meaning strong. Rumors from the forums are true. A Gigacutie has been confirmed. Krim is embarrassed, but others laugh with delight. On the battlefield, it's not just strength but admiration that can shake the fighting spirit. still reeling from the dizzying effect of a beautiful girl. The Skyrunner's captain is completely captivated. Amid the battlefield, while teammates urge a return to the fight, he instead switches to photo mode. With sparkling eyes through the lens and requests to line up the three girls close together, the Skyrunners seem more caught up in a fan gathering than a deadly battle. To their enemies, they might be dangerous warriors. But right now, they're nothing more than a group of fangirls lost at a fan meet. The match is as tense as a drawn bowstring when suddenly, a scream pierces the air. "You motherfucker!" A petite girl swings a gigantic scythe, stunning the entire battlefield. The enemy hasn't even processed what's happening before being pierced by a clean strike. No one expected the cute girl from before to be a grim reaper wielding a scythe so effortlessly. But then, just a second later, she clumsily loses balance like a baby rabbit attempting its first long jump. A scene both terrifying and unbelievably adorable. The Skyrunner's captain can only mutter, "Seriously, Captain, what the hell is this?" Mid the battlefield chaos, a shout rings out, "Master, I'll cover you!" And immediately a small figure bursts into the front line. Magical light swirls around, arcane symbols glittering as if summoning a deity in the desert. The Skyrunners panic as they lose sight of their opponent right before their eyes. "Shit, she's hiding behind my shield." Someone on the team manages to exclaim, "Is this Kakano?" The question echoes amid the surge of magic, signaling an unavoidable counterattack. Latimo desperately raises his shield, but the tiny opponent slips right under his guard. The advantages of being short. A sharp asterisk shield bash asterisk strikes straight at his core. The blow not only deals damage, but completely disrupts Latimo's movement rhythm. His HP bar drops. As everything seems to freeze for a moment, the fox girl prepares her next move. This isn't good, her next one is. Agility is turning the tide with just one surprise attack from the shadows. Just as the finishing blow is about to thrust, asterisk, the Skyrunners charge in, cutting across Hinajiku's sword path like a meteor striking the ground. Kakano is pushed back right before the critical moment. The timely rescue sends the stands into an uproar. Though the fox girl possesses keen instincts, the opponent's smooth coordination is putting her in a dangerous spot. From the stands, eyes watch intently. Just look around her. The battle is not just about individual skill. It's a chess game where every move is life or death. The fox girl clenches her fists, eyes blazing. "Our team isn't really a team yet, so I have to give my all until that becomes true." Meanwhile, the Skyrunners begin to feel the pressure. "That kid was fast before, now she's even crazier." Hesitation creeps into their words, but the battlefield waits for no one. "Switch to Plan A." The team immediately adjusts. A new tactic is about to be deployed, and the atmosphere grows heavy. A decisive strike is approaching. The Skyrunners simultaneously form up, spears sharp, shields tilted. The assault formation takes shape. The fox girl narrows her eyes, exclaiming, "What are they doing?" A steel mass moves like a living creature, each unit merging into a giant spearhead. The commentator seems to hold his breath, then bursts out, "The Skyrunners have formed up." This is no longer a brawl, but the polished tactics of a well-prepared force. The wind begins to rise. The battlefield is about to explode. The Skyrunners suddenly change direction. Lance Art, Eisenblitz sounds out. The line of shields and spears charges like thunder straight toward the enemy base, shaking the entire battlefield. Krim is stunned. "What are they doing?" Teammates panic. "They're rushing straight to our base." Hinajiku gasps, still in disbelief. Meanwhile, the Skyrunners laugh confidently. "Ambush plan failed? No problem, just revert to the original plan, capture the flag." Chapter 71 ends with arrogant laughter and a chase about to erupt. After the ambush failed, the Skyrunners quickly switched to a strategic retreat. But this was not just a retreat. They were heading straight for the enemy's flag. In the stands, commentators immediately recognized this move as a strategic invasion. The order was given, "Don't let your guard down." On the field, Waltzing Grave noted that the Black Rabbits hadn't caught up yet while praising his team's decisiveness. "Let's go, Hinajiku," he signaled. Meanwhile, the opposing side began to sense the real danger from the Black Rabbits. "Should we chase after them?" one member asked. Krim responded firmly, "No, we trust Frey's team. Keep targeting the objective." Chapter 72 opens with the title Gold Rush, foreshadowing a deadly race toward victory. The tactical map showed the situation gradually shifting. One team proposed playing it safe, retreating to coordinate with Frey's group to form a 10v5 pincer. However, the other group quickly rejected that plan. They didn't believe Frey could handle the Skyrunners. At this point, Krim made a surprising decision. "We trust Frey's team. Move toward the enemy flag." A member was shocked, reminding Krim that he had previously doubted them. His cold but resolute reply, "I've changed my mind." Without further discussion, the decision was finalized: advance. The atmosphere between the two teams remained tense. Krim irritably realized the opponents were acting unlike how they had at MT. Rakume, their words and actions completely contradicted each other. Meanwhile, Kakano was still holding on, determined to bear everything until the group could fight as a unified whole. On the other side, the enemy had spotted them. With a calm yet deadly demeanor, the masked figure lightly raised their weapon and asked softly, "So, shall we advance on them?" The battle was about to enter a new turning point. The Black Rabbits' sudden appearance immediately drew attention. Observers were surprised to see they had just arrived. The Skyrunners were so fast they completely bypassed the rest of the group and charged straight for the enemy flag. This caused confusion. Who would dare launch such a surprise attack? The lack of visibility on the map only added to the chaos. Below, the rabbit-eared pair stared intently at the battlefield, unable to believe their eyes. No one was visible except the enemy team. They had been outpaced from the very first minute. The Black Rabbit's rear guard expressed frustration at being forced to defend. "What kind of defense is this? It's so boring," one complained, while the team leader gently countered. "We're just testing the waters a bit." Members gradually gathered, and a whisper arose. "Now that we have 5 people, we can execute that plan asterisk." No more sitting still. The whole team was ready to act under the colorful slogan, "Witness the moon's messengers take the field." The situation suddenly shifted, and the opposing team began to feel uneasy. Black Rabbits officially made their debut with a flashy performance. While the opponents were still adjusting their formation, the 5 members jumped out with a lively slogan. "We are the Black Rabbits, cute, righteous, and..." Boom! Led by Lies, the crafty guild leader, the team quickly captured all attention with their overwhelming cuteness. But the other side was far from amused. Their reaction was tired, half helpless, half wary. A tee-hee and boing-boing might signal an impending strike rather than harmless fun. The stadium suddenly erupted with the sounds of hoppy hop 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 and fluffy fluffy kayan kayan echoing from the stands. Those who thought they were sitting in a neutral zone soon realized they had wandered into the most fanatic fan zone, the Black Rabbits cheering section. Fans wore rabbit ears, waved glow sticks, and shouted slogans just like at an idol concert. Some veteran players were confused, asking each other, "Who are they?" The answer immediately added to the chaos. The Black Rabbits were actually super famous live streamers. While everyone was still bewildered by the mix-up, a kind fan casually handed out souvenirs and the main characters froze at the new keyword. Live streaming. Perhaps this battle was not just about skill, but also a media war. The arena buzzed as both teams charged headlong at each other without hesitation. From the stands, commentators quickly realized the situation had shifted from defense to full offense. On the front lines, Krim gave a decisive order: fight while retreating to base, avoiding being flanked. The Black Rabbits members responded swiftly, united in executing the tactic. During the withdrawal, an unexpected slip briefly threw the battle line into chaos. But that was just the prelude. On the right flank, 2 veterans, Takebana and Headsman, entered the fray, ready to push the confrontation to its most intense moment. Krim stepped forward, accidentally, or perhaps deliberately, stepping on a teammate's cloak, triggering a beep warning indicating blood loss. Her half-hearted apology, "My bad," couldn't hide the sly look in her eyes. While the teammates tried to stay patient, Hinajiku wasn't naive enough to miss the fact. Krim was clearly playing a trick. Amid the chaotic retreat, Krim's kick shattered the scene as if she were still performing on stage, not in battle. But just as the atmosphere grew uncertain, a warning shout rang out. Another surprise attack seemed imminent. Mid the chaos, a sudden Wideria strike came crashing down from the enemy. The masked attacker charged into the front line shouting, "Hey Runt, I'll cover you," followed by a powerful swing that disregarded the distance between ally and foe. Hinajiku was knocked far away, the battlefield shaking with dust clouds and explosive effects. A teammate shouted desperately, "Master, watch out!" But it was too late. Krim's eyes narrowed in anger. "What the hell? You dare use AoE with allies in range?" Her words were both furious and challenging, while the aftermath of the strike remained uncertain. The spear thrust tore through the ground with fierce energy, but the attack went off course. Amid the whistling wind and flying debris, a Black Rabbit member screamed in panic, "H-I-E-K?" Meanwhile, the attacker, the masked man with a nonchalant expression, shrugged. "My target was their guild leader, just missed a bit." A teammate behind him widened his eyes. "D-dude?" Full of shock and helplessness. The battlefield grew increasingly chaotic, as the lines between ally and enemy blurred due to recklessness and carelessness. An argument erupted right in the stands when a member was accused of deliberately sabotaging the match. "You bastards are clearly ruining the game," shouted a furious player. The accused denied vehemently. "How would I know? Got any proof? It's just a coincidence." Meanwhile, others dodged responsibility. "I don't know anything. I deny everything." The situation became even more absurd as the arena host sighed. "Can we not cause a ruckus here?" Amid the chaos, shocking news broke out. Block A has ended. That fast? Not even 5 minutes yet. The game had flipped in an instant, turning the battlefield into a backstage full of controversy. Block A officially closed in astonishment. With only 5 members, Nord Glacier had wiped out all 10 opponents, securing a flawless victory. A game of capture the flag, yet no one even touched the flag. Nord Glacier wiped out the entire enemy team? The AI commentator sounded incredulous. "So much for the so-called match," sighed a spectator wearily. At the same time, Marvelous also secured a spot in the semifinals. But unlike excitement, the players' reactions were strangely subdued. "Not bad at all. Shall we farm some more? No, that's enough." What seemed like a climax of strategy and strength turned out to be a casual stroll for Nord Glacier. At the Valhallant Arena, a spectator decided to stay and watch the action in Group F, where the battle was intensifying. "One of the guilds here has caught my attention." His gaze followed the team fighting below. The big screen displayed the red team's formation, and inside the arena, swirling magical forces collided in dazzling light. The skirmish had officially passed the probing phase. The real battle was just beginning. While Valhallant was still boiling, the Black Rabbits began a new plan. Amid Krim and Lai's argument, which made the atmosphere tense, the rest of the team quickly spotted an opportunity. "They're arguing again," one commentator noted, eyes scanning the battlefield. "Should we attack? The enemy doesn't have many left." Meanwhile, one member watching Krim looking tired wondered, "Is Krim losing form?" But Lai's was different. With sharp eyes and a knowing smile, she licked her lips and whispered as if the real game was just starting, "It's time to launch Operation Gold Rush." Despite teammates urging seriousness, Lai's signaled. The plan was already in motion. They're fast, moving at the highest level, just as expected. A sudden counterattack from the Black Rabbit team instantly flipped the battlefield. While the enemy was still assessing, "Just block the hit." But before the words were finished, he was struck. A sharp attack pierced through the defense line, proving the gap in speed and reflexes. The game had now tilted in favor of the rabbit-eared warriors. The sneaky strike from below completely threw the opponent off balance. In a brief moment, the rabbit warrior took down the enemy with a decisive move. No magic or flashy weapons needed, just pure strength, speed, and cunning. "In this world without pain, suffer a world of hurt." The voice was gentle, but the eyes blazed like hellfire. The battle was no longer a game. It was a stage for those crazy enough to smile amid the screams. "You, The screams echoed throughout the arena, making even the veterans shudder. In a game where players don't feel pain, those emotional cries tore through logic and virtual experience. The opponent collapsed helpless while the audience was left stunned and confused. How did that work?" A haunting question repeated in their minds. No one dared answer, for they all sensed this was no ordinary match. It was the sign of a nightmare just beginning. Chapter 72 ended in chaos, but one thing was clear. The Black Rabbits were not here to play second fiddle. Chapter 73 opens with an unbelievable yet undeniable scene. Takebana, one of the veteran fighters, suddenly collapses after a groin kick. Although Duo is a game without a pain sensation mechanism, his reaction far exceeds expectations. The kick not only drastically drained his health bar, but also threw the entire team into confusion. Lais and Krim were stunned. One reminded everyone it was just a game, while the other couldn't hide their shock at the virtual yet real knockout. Meanwhile, the culprit, a long-eared rabbit, remained completely calm, as if everything had been planned. Titled Phantom Pain, this chapter begins with a shock that is both humorous and unsettling, emphasizing that in Duo, nothing is simple and pain can come from both body and mind, even if it's just a well-placed groin kick. After the critical kick that made Takebana fall as if feeling real pain, confusion spread through the commentators and the stands. Although the system clearly doesn't simulate pain, the digital body's reaction sent chills down everyone's spine. One person exclaimed, "The brain really is strange," while another explained that the illusion of reality can be unconsciously created, even when the body is just data. This wasn't just a ridiculous fall, but proof that the human mind, even when entering a digital world, still carries memories, fears, and sensations from the real world. A layer of depth that makes the Duo world more vivid than ever. The sensation of being attacked, even in a digital world, can still trigger real reflexes from the brain. Like the rubber hand illusion or phantom limb pain, deeply ingrained painful memories in the human mind can recreate pain that shouldn't exist. They are fully exploiting this phenomenon, manipulating non-existent physiological responses to gain an advantage. But instead of an academic debate, the companion bluntly points out one simple reason. He just doesn't want to think about getting kicked in the groin. A perfectly executed gold rush left the entire audience silent before erupting in cheers. Although this is just a game without pain simulation, the critical kick forced the opponent to recoil almost instinctively. The male spectators couldn't help but shudder in sympathy, some even curling up reflexively. Meanwhile, the Black Rabbit's group in the distance discussed excitedly, laughing and commenting on the valuable performance. Though his face wasn't visible when he shouted, just hearing the yell was enough to imagine it. A critical strike threw the opposing formation into chaos, while Black Rabbit quickly switched to offense, exploiting the newly created gap. The rabbit-eared girl charged forward like a spear, pointing directly at the next target. A golden opportunity had appeared. They were cornered, but this might just be their ticket to escape. Without hesitation, the girl swept her spear to the ground, summoning a binding spell. Rock Bind erupted, cracking the earth and trapping two unlucky foes. Though feeling a pang of guilt, she decided to use them as bait. The surprise attack threw the enemy into panic, leaving them no time to react to the next wave of assault. This was no longer a normal match. It was a battlefield where ruthlessness and decisiveness were the ultimate weapons. Hinajiku ordered an attack just as the enemy faltered, aiming straight at a critical weak point that threw the opposing team into disarray. A decisive bonk blocked the counterattack, but Headman was still not safe as his reinforcements rushed in to assist. Despite the chaos, her side maintained the initiative. If they capitalized on this chance, the tide could turn. In a life-or-death moment, Hinajiku's eyes were filled with panic as the enemy's sword aimed straight at her. The opponent gritted his teeth, cursing and forcing himself to attack despite hesitation. Emotions and instincts clashed fiercely. Would the strike stop, or was it a call for courage about to end in tragedy? The space felt suffocating, time nearly frozen before the fateful blade. The critical strike meant for the opponent instead completely shattered Krim, not physically but mentally. She blushed, staggered, and collapsed in embarrassment and confusion, while her teammates were shocked, unable to understand why it was so effective. Meanwhile, the culprit burst into laughter, deliberately taunting and pouring fuel on the fire with mocking words. The atmosphere suddenly flipped. The battlefield turned into a stage of confusion and laughter, leaving both foes and allies unsure whether to fight or apologize first. What seemed like a random, uncoordinated team was actually a consistent strategy of systematic resistance. Krim realized her mistake. The lack of synchronization was actually a consistent pattern, always opposing every proposal. It wasn't chaos but playing by their own rules. And now, they still firmly trusted Frey, heading straight for the victory flag, unwavering without hesitation. They are not a traditional winning team, but players who follow their own rules, those who never even consider victory. To an observer, they seem like nothing more than trolls ruining the game, but that very absurdity is their strategy. When all predictions collapse, only one move remains, and they are betting everything on it. Waltzing Grave, a monstrous group that warps the entire battlefield to their own rhythm. Krim was exhausted. The enemy's initial strikes shattered all her plans. But in that brief moment, she made her final decision to let go of control and place all her hope on the Black Rabbit group. There was no other choice, because now everything depended on them. Chapter 74 opens with a heated argument. The losers angrily question, "Didn't you think it would come to this?" They admit to being the bad guys, but they dwell on the humiliation and the looting they suffered after losing. The opponents coldly retort, "Winning is winning, no need to rethink it." Yet the resentment has taken root. A group once defeated now returns not to win, but to cause chaos. This is no longer a fair competition, but a stage for the bloodthirsty and wounded, those who don't play to win, but to return the shame they once felt. Tensions continue to rise as the truth is revealed. One side still tries to justify reconciliation, claiming yesterday's enemy is today's friend, but no one believes in that peace. Beneath the social mask lies an unyielding grudge. When the semifinals are mentioned, the opponents cut in mercilessly. "We won't let you get there." No more hints, no more preliminaries. The battle has officially turned into a personal vendetta, cold, fierce, and unforgiving. Krim is publicly humiliated, her physical and emotional pain made a mockery of. The rivals shamelessly press on her wounds, mocking her gender and deriding her failure. But Krim does not fall. She stands amidst the laughter, eyes cold as ice. The biggest clown is the one who laughs the loudest. Her voice is razor-sharp. The opponents think they control the match, but Krim strikes back with the truth. The loser is not her, it's the one who dared to throw away victory. There's no room for jokes anymore. Only the battlefield remains. The verbal battle officially crosses the line. After being called the biggest clown of the match, the leader of Waltzing Grave can no longer maintain composure. Fury explodes in his sharp eyes, his voice hissing through clenched teeth like a blade. "What the hell did you just say about me, you bastard? You're dead meat." Meanwhile, Lies only sneers with contempt, her gaze provocative, as if she's held the upper hand from the start. No doubt about it, now blood will be spilled. The insults hit like sparks lighting a powder keg. The crowd roars loudly, "Kill the rabbits!" The confrontation with Black Rabbit has gone beyond the game and turned into personal hatred. Meanwhile, Lies disdainfully asks, "Thought you were going to throw the game?" The opponent coldly draws his sword. "That's after you're dead." But before the blade can swing, a whisper echoes across the battlefield. "Are you sure we're not the only enemies here?" A greater threat lurks, and the game is far from over. A sudden attack from Black Rabbit and Headhunter strikes like a barrage of arrows. The AoE bind skill locks down the entire enemy frontline, freezing the battlefield in an instant. One side grits their teeth in shock. This is an area of effect skill, but the reply is a sinister smile and a cold declaration. "Your team's done for." No one can save them in time. This crushing defeat is the price of arrogance, and the final words cut like a finishing blow. "You brought this on yourselves." The plan was set from the start. They didn't come to win, but to drag their opponents down with them. Every move by the Headhunter group was part of a premeditated revenge plot, even if it meant sacrifice. As the names Bianca, Takebana, and Headsman disappeared from the HP bar one by one, the plan reached its climax. The opponents only now realize the scheme, but it's too late. While their side is thrown into chaos by their teammates, tactical suicides, Black Rabbit calmly ends the game. The flag will be captured, the match is over, plan complete. Completely defeated, the battlefield devastated by the combined strikes of two Black Rabbit members, the enemy team can only remain silent. Amid the shattering of flowers and steel, a whisper is released. "It's just a game anyways." But her eyes carry no relief, only emptiness, depth, and coldness. The words serve as a reminder that even in a game, there are revenge costs heavier than reality. The attack rained down, flames from two directions burning away any chance of resistance. But at that fateful moment, she pushed her teammate aside, an unexpected act, more instinct than strategy. In the blinding light, her body took the full brunt of the strike. No words were spoken, only the sound of shattering, roses scattering in the air, as if a sacrifice silently acknowledged. She turned around, her gaze piercing through the shattered dust like a blade. A voice, mid-sentence and unfinished, faltered in midair. The rabbit girl stood firm in front, teeth clenched, eyes filled with unwavering determination. In that brief silence, all explanations were unnecessary. Nothing more needed to be said. The choice was clear, and this chapter closed with a choking heartbeat. Chapter 75 opens with a misdirection both literally and figuratively. As the group tries to navigate the rooftop maze, an argument breaks out over the overly optimistic attitude of a bunny-eared member. Despite the clear map, she confidently leads the way, until she admits she's been holding the minimap upside down. Meanwhile, the other member can only grit their teeth in frustration and helplessness at their teammate. Unlimited confidence. A humorous start that also hints at the troubles ahead. Though just a short distance from the base, the Waltzing Grave team continues their digital tantrum act with every excuse under the sun. One complains of blisters on their feet, even though they're just playing a game. Another pretends their gnome machine is out of fuel. The teammates, grumbling, doesn't shake their determination to sabotage. Another member begins to suspect. Could all these antics be revenge for the Rakume Mountain incident? But while everyone worries about the team's seriousness, a new excuse rings out. "Oh, there's our flag Tilda," ending the scene in complete frustration and helplessness. After a series of baffling delays, Krim's group finally reaches the base ahead of the opponents. Although teammates try to appear optimistic and confident, no one truly trusts each other. As one starts setting up a paralyzing AoE trap, looking quite professional, the group keeps mocking each other for their odd actions. Tension simmers beneath the surface, and the team's trust is like the trap they just set. Fragile, easily broken, and potentially backfiring at any moment. Beneath their confident masks and sarcastic remarks, the Black Bunny team continues to rile up their opponents with a playful yet dismissive attitude toward the match. Setting up automatic traps is like declaring, "We can win while taking it easy." Tensions flare as both sides start trading taunts, neither willing to back down. Amid the brewing storm, someone still worries about falling off a cliff. The game may be virtual, but the pride here is very real. While the group is still arguing and joking about trap placement, a sudden ambush strikes from behind. One member is instantly taken down. The screen flashes the cold message, HP destroy, like a slap in the face to the whole team. In the chaotic moment, the name Skyrunners echoes, signaling a nightmare just beginning. The feeling of déjà vu isn't accidental. History is repeating itself, and this time there's no time for jokes. The situation turns dramatically as the Skyrunners break through the front line. One member falls, and the flag is left undefended, signaling a critical moment. While everyone panics, Krim steps up to cover the rear but is stopped by the team. "You have to get back to the flag too." Pressure mounts, but the enemy remains confident. "We're ranked 58 for a reason. We're leading this raid." As missiles fly in the chaos, the battle shifts, fierce and inescapable. In the sky, the Skyrunners' formation dives like deadly arrows. "We're a guild born to fight for the flag," a declaration that hits the confused defenders hard. One member immediately realizes this is the type of team that only plays capture the flag mode, purely training for base assault tactics. As they land near the flag, a shout erupts. "Damn it, they're aiming straight for our flag." The battle has reached a life-or-death climax. The plan is clear: hold the circle for 60 seconds and victory will be theirs. The countdown begins, and as the timer hits 59, the Skyrunners instantly shift into ultimate defensive formation, phalanx. Dense shields and spears all pointed forward, no gaps, no hesitation. This isn't defense, it's a declaration. Victory is already decided. The situation is critical. The entire Skyrunners team has taken control of the flag capture zone. The timer won't stop if they leave the circle, meaning the red team must immediately regain control. Only 4 seconds have passed, but if the bar fills up, the match ends instantly. The tactical command rings out. "Use knockback skills, push them off the point." Asterisk, the last chance to turn the tide. The red team's counterattack fails. All knockback skills have been completely nullified. Asterisk. The Skyrunners read the battle like an open book, deploying the defensive skill Iron Heart at the perfect moment. The dense shield wall holds firm, unmoved. At this point, the Skyrunners are holding their ground absolutely within the capture circle, the battle clearly tipping in their favor. The red team is flustered by the opponent's dense tank formation. All their knockback skills have cooled down. However, they quickly realize an important fact. Just one person entering the capture circle can stop the countdown asterisk. Although Freya is the optimal choice for this, facing the entire team alone is no easy feat. But surprisingly, the timer freezes at 53 seconds. Someone has just managed to jump into the circle in time, slowing down the Skyrunners' march to victory. Freya steps into the front line like a moving fortress, her eyes blazing and battle axe held before her chest. Facing the Skyrunners' solid barricade, she takes a deep breath and shouts fiercely, "Leave this to me!" The clock halts at 52 seconds, and the entire burden of protecting the team's hope now rests on her shoulders. Chapter 75 closes, ushering in the next life-or-death battle in a critical moment. Freya stepped into the battle alone, shield and axe in hand, her determined gaze like a declaration of war. The commentator didn't miss a beat, announcing she was going solo, a decision that left both teammates and opponents holding their breath. Despite warnings of 1v5 and you're done for, Freya pressed forward, shouting, "It's time to show them what I learned in Valhalla." With no way back, Chapter 76 begins with Solitude carrying the hope of a glorious counterattack. Freya unleashed a decisive shield bash, but Latimo anticipated the move. He delivered a perfect shield strike, blocking the attack and countering immediately. They collided like thunder, leaving both stunned. A textbook skill exchange, yet it plunged Freya into a dangerous position in the 1v5 standoff. As a teammate's flank was exposed, the Skyrunners instantly reformed their phalanx to shield every gap. Their near-perfect coordination left the enemy speechless. Freya refused to give up. While her teammates provided covering fire from behind, she braced herself, activated the luminous arts skill, and shouted, "I'm not done yet." Alone against an impenetrable steel wall, her spirit remained unshaken. Freya was knocked out of the capture zone by a purely physical shield bash, no skills activated, prompting the opposing team to launch a counterattack. The countdown clock resumed, signaling a shift in momentum. She recalled Elmir using this move to solo Krim, but caught off guard, she couldn't defend in time. Despite her experience, Freya was completely pushed back. The Skyrunners now held full advantage. In a panic, Freya activated all her defensive skills: Hardskin, Clay Wall, Armor Up, and Divine Heal, turning unexpectedly into a meta-tank. Her teammates worried she was stacking too many buffs at once, while enemies struggled to take her down due to the thick layers of effects. Behind her, the team tried to organize a flank attack, but also wondered if their tank Otaku-san remembered what cooldowns were. The battle grew tense, hinging on Freya's recklessness. Freya recklessly activated all buffs to endure, but everyone knew those defensive skills only lasted briefly. Her teammates called her a fool for about to become soft tofu before the Skyrunners' big strike, waiting for the buffs to expire to deliver the finishing blow. No one believed they could win without their tank, and the clock kept ticking down. Freya stood firm again amid healing bursts and worried glances from her teammates, but tension still hung over the battlefield. While the Skyrunners maintained their cold, steel-like defense, her teammates scrambled to find a way to turn the tide. One member decided to cast a spell, even if just for show, hoping not to cause too much damage, or at least to force the enemy to move. In this stalemate, any small action could be the spark that shatters the battle. The fox-eared girl's attack seemed merely playful, but ignited a chain of stunning combos. Hydro Crash swept the battlefield, setting a timely water trap that inflicted a lightning resistance debuff on the Phalanx formation. Immediately after, Bolt of Destruction struck like thunder in clear skies, a perfectly coordinated critical hit. As the lightning tore through the once impenetrable defense, all could only exclaim, "An unbelievable combo!" The battle had turned. As the defense collapsed, the cold silver gun of the black-haired girl fired. Double tap, a twin-shot skill thundered down. Kajiro took the fatal shot, his body shattered, HP barely above zero. The opposing team shouted, "Kajiro is down!" But no, the guts icon lit up. He still stood, trembling but unfallen. He had activated his last resort endurance skill. The line between life and death was just one shot away. The fight was far from over. Kajiro remained standing despite the critical headshot, but his toughness only kept his body upright. His consciousness was gone. His team hurried to shield him. "Quick, protect Kajiro!" But time waited for no one. Just as they realized he was stunned, a sharp shout cut through the air. "You're too slow!" The enemy closed in, seizing the golden moment amid chaos. The Phalanx was breaking apart piece by piece. Freya did not falter. Though the previous attack hadn't finished off the enemy, she gritted her teeth, eyes blazing with determination, and shouted, "Again!" The glowing mace in her hand traced a dazzling arc, striking down the opposing formation struggling to regroup. The luminous mace skill shattered the remaining shields and willpower in the enemy's defense. This was more than an attack, it was a declaration. Freya was still standing. Under relentless pressure, the Skyrunners finally couldn't hold their ground and were forced to retreat. The red team seized the opportunity, shattering the solid Phalanx formation and fully reclaiming the capture zone with only 21 seconds left. Freya smiled triumphantly, standing in the middle of the battlefield as a symbol of the counterattack. Now that's teamwork. She raised her mace and shield high, affirming that victory came not from individual strength, but from the perfect harmony of the entire group. The battlefield shifted rapidly. Though forced to withdraw, the Skyrunners managed to buy precious time, the most crucial thing they needed to recover and reorganize their strategy. While the red team had only regained 21 seconds, the Skyrunners had accumulated 39 seconds. With reserves of healing potions and skills cooling down, they would return stronger. The red team faced a harsh reality. The time control gap was irreversible, and the Skyrunners' next assault could be the finishing blow. The atmosphere lingered after the battle as the group began to exchange words. The platinum-haired mage, calm as ever, openly thanked the red-haired teammate for her major role in breaking the enemy's defense. But instead of being touched, she reacted fiercely as usual, throwing a few curses back, blushing at being called Little Beach, and pretending to be angry to hide her embarrassment. Yet that moment revealed a genuine bond forming, noisy, chaotic, but full of life. As the battle quieted, so did the atmosphere. Beneath the giant hanging tapestry, the platinum-haired mage looked up and whispered something he had never admitted before. Although their group was full of trolls and no one seriously played to win, the recent battle brought a surprisingly pleasant feeling. Perhaps for the first time he saw that winning was a goal worth trying for, not for fame or rewards, but simply for teammates, for the feeling of truly fighting together. Just as the match ended and everyone was breathing a sigh of relief, Bianca suddenly started fiddling with something. A beep sounded, and the names Hinajiku and Gnome instantly switched to skull icons. The atmosphere fell silent. The girl beside her turned, eyes filled with confusion. "Bianca, what are you doing?" Chapter 76 closed in a chaotic moment, when what seemed like a hard-won victory immediately twisted into something far more unpredictable. Right at the start of Chapter 77, a sudden announcement immediately dampened the atmosphere. Hinajiku had been taken down. The whole group couldn't hide their shock. Although they knew the Black Rabbits were formidable opponents, Hinajiku's fall in this situation was still a blow. Gnome quickly analyzed the situation, while Bianca only slightly furrowed her brow. A cold reaction that couldn't conceal something unusual stirring inside her. The battle might have ended, but this game was clearly still ongoing. The group fell silent after Hinajiku's death. Despite the tense atmosphere, Gnome quietly calculated. Pressuring Bianca now would only fracture their formation. All eyes turned to the girl who still wore a detached expression. Bianca and the others have chosen to continue with the sabotage plan, he thought silently. Though no one spoke it aloud, everyone understood. This choice would be the dividing line between hope for victory and spiraling into self-destructive defeat. But beneath the sky patterned with vibrant floral carpets, Bianca simply lifted her head, her gaze cold yet resolute, as if waiting to see whether the team's faith would be strong enough to pull them out of the quagmire called the sabotage plan. Hinajiku fell, her body shattering like broken crystal. She had taken the blow for her teammates. The fatal strike wasn't aimed at her, yet Hinajiku rushed out without hesitation. On the enemy's face, a long-eared rabbit warrior was clear shock. She chose to die in place of others. It wasn't an optimal strategy nor a rational act, but it was enough to shake the opponent. In that brief moment amid the raging battlefield, the enemy commander gritted his teeth and shouted, "Finish them off." Yet the silent question that had just echoed, was it worth it to save her, planted a seed of doubt within the entire team. Bianca screamed in panic as she saw Hinajiku fall. Surrounded by enemies, she realized she was alone. The last teammate had sacrificed herself to protect her. "I'm all alone now. Everyone around me is an enemy." That thought flashed like a sharp blade, triggering a cold survival instinct within her. Her eyes widened, her chest heaving, but instead of panic, her hand gradually tightened around the gun hidden beneath her coat. When the opponent's sword swung toward her, she had already planned her next move. Hesitation vanished, her gaze turned icy. Hinajiku had sacrificed herself, and Bianca would not let that sacrifice be in vain. Bianca spun to dodge the bullet, her movement sharp and cold. The bullet grazed her hair, but instead of fear, her eyes only grew sharper. The enemy sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "As expected, you're still good at dodging bullets like before." Meanwhile, Bianca's teammates were still dazed from the fall, their confused eyes not yet adapting to the shifting situation. He slowly turned the gun barrel and whispered like the wind, "Retreat." Everything was silent for a moment, but everyone knew this was not the end, just a pause in a chess game that had just begun. The enemies began to scatter, creating a dispersed formation that unsettled Lai's group. One of them shouted, "Chase or not?" But Lai's only furrowed her brow, narrowing her eyes as she assessed the situation. "They're setting a trap, bruv," she replied tersely, her tone tinged with fatigue but still clear-headed. One wrong move and they'd be ambushed and wiped out. She glanced down at the wound on her leg, exhaling softly. "I can't chase, my leg been hit." She quickly pointed out the real danger. If they broke through and captured the flag, the whole team would lose. "We're the last line of defense. Can't let that happen." Under the blazing sun and howling desert wind, she stood firm, like the final fortress. While the defenders reinforced their position, a girl wearing a bunny-eared hat smiled confidently. "We just need to protect the flag, right?" The plan was clear: recover and strengthen the defense. Meanwhile, the enemy was tactically retreating. One of them casually remarked, "Those two girls aren't worth worrying about. We just need to concentrate our forces to overwhelm them." Simple, effective, and a bit arrogant. They didn't realize that behind those stone walls, the silence wasn't retreat, it was preparation. Someone in the group glanced out from a window frame, eyes sharp. "They're not following." The real battle might have only just begun. In the simple stone room, tension filled every gaze. One member spoke up, his voice tinged with frustration. "Why retreat? You didn't even care if we lost back then." The person addressed didn't look up, fingers fiddling with her gun, replying curtly, "Don't know." The words silenced the group. Another teammate glanced at a girl sitting apart, head bowed, her shadow lost in thought. "And her too." The words hung unfinished, but everyone understood. Not everyone fights for victory. Sometimes, turning one's back on the battle signals a deeper change, something no one has yet named. As teammates gradually withdrew and the situation turned unfavorable, the blonde girl's gaze remained sharp. Hinajiku? Why? The old question surged again, this time not just curiosity but inner turmoil. The match had never been this bad, and now every decision was a matter of survival. Before the Black Rabbits grasped the whole picture, Skyrun had to be removed from the board. To have a chance at victory, she had to regroup with Frey's team. And to do that, no one else could be sacrificed in vain. Sorry, Hinajiku. She clenched her fists, nails digging into fabric, blood seeping onto her palm. But despite her resolute logic, deep inside her heart whispered, even so. Bianca was silent for a moment, then finally spoke. Before Hinajiku fell, she only said a little. The person opposite hesitated, asking, did she say anything? Bianca nodded slightly, her eyes still lingering on the battlefield. A mild rebuke enough to make me think. Not an accusation, not a plea, just a simple reminder, but one that left a deeper echo than any tactic. Though it was Hinajiku's choice, Bianca had to face the truth. They were the ones who created the circumstances leading to that tragedy. She was criticized for taking away the joy of fighting from the youngest member, and though reluctant to admit it, she knew it was true. I know well. In a rare moment of silence, she bowed her head slightly. And I also feel some regret. Bianca quietly stepped out, taking on the task of guarding the rear door as a way to atone for past hesitation. But deep down she knew the fracture in team spirit had left its mark. It's just a game, someone muttered, as if dismissing all meaning behind effort and sacrifice. Meanwhile, another figure made a decision. I need to retreat unexpectedly before regrouping with Frey and the others. Finally, a painful admission echoed from within. I know they don't really want to win. Though everything descended into chaos, some still clung to the desire to win. I want to win too, came a surprising confession from someone who seemed to have given up. They were surprised, but also realized that they, the adults, would be pitiful if they let the game end that way, saved by a strange child. Doubt was clear on Frey's face as she questioned. You made it to the quarterfinals and now choose to sabotage the game. The story began to unfold. Initially, they were determined, but Bianca, the one who unexpectedly reversed the plan and said, it's just a game, had caused everything to slip off course. Though no one knew exactly what happened, they all felt this matter was not as simple as it seemed. It's just a game, a phrase so strange that even longtime teammates couldn't understand Bianca. She was never the type to give up like that. They recalled the difficult journey, facing larger, stronger guilds, struggling through qualifiers with faint hope. Their guild was small, members had jobs, no one was free all day. There were times they borrowed the neat power just to hold their position, yet in their hearts the flame of victory had not died out. You still want to win. Frey's question was a confirmation, and the answer came firmly. Almost. No one was certain of anything, but the fighting spirit remained, steady, quiet, and strong. The masked player spoke up, admitting that PK was just a gameplay style, a feature programmed into the game. But he didn't hesitate to share his view. Griefing was wrong. They didn't oppose Bianca when she proposed the plan, and now they apologized for getting swept up. Frey wanted them to relay a message to Bianca, but the other simply replied, You think we've never done that? The answer left Frey confused. She had always thought that group only wanted to sabotage. But it turned out even Bianca had wanted to win. She began to wonder, was what they were doing now not just for the tournament, but for something else, something related to MT, Rakume. Bianca returned, entering the room with an overwhelming presence. I hear you all talking too much, she said, her gaze sweeping over her teammates. Faced with awkward silence, Frey stepped forward, meeting her gaze directly and speaking clearly. Honestly, I have a lot to say to you, but for Hinajiku's sake, I beg you try to win with me. A heavy silence fell, then others spoke up. We want that too, please, Bianca. All eyes fixed on the girl who always led, waiting for the answer that could decide everything. Bianca turned her back, mocking. That kid affects you all this much, she shrugged lightly, then continued. The match lasts only 45 minutes and 20 have already passed. Frey retorted coldly. Is that all you have to say? Without answering directly, Bianca glanced at her teammates, her tone decisive. If we want to win, we need to attack as soon as possible, especially after losing so much time. She glanced outside, the light catching her hair. Anyway, all our skills are off cooldown now. A decision was made, cold but no longer hesitant. Bianca stood up straight, her eyes no longer avoiding. She looked straight ahead, her hair gently swaying in the light streaming from outside. I will try to win with the same effort I once used to sabotage you. Without hesitation, she turned and said, Let's go. Frey paused for a moment, eyes wide, then silently nodded. No more words were needed. They were truly ready to fight as one team. Bianca stepped forward without looking back but left a pointed remark. "Don't misunderstand. This isn't for you nor for that kid." She smirked, her gaze cold. "I just want to see those rabbits cry with my own eyes." Frey paused, tilting her head in curiosity. "But why now?" Bianca replied tersely. "I changed my mind." A simple answer, but the fire in her eyes was different. Someone behind watched her retreating figure, murmuring, "It's been a long time since she took the initiative like that." Seems like what Hinajiku said really affected her. "Maybe Hinajiku touched on something very personal," Frey smiled softly. "Kids can be surprisingly perceptive, can't they?" The atmosphere shifted. They were no longer a group falling apart over disagreements. Now they were a team and ready to fight. Rescued from the chaos that seemed doomed to sink, Frey's group finally found consensus. Hinajiku looked out the window, her gaze resolute. "Now, let's make Lies cry and watch her face when she loses." Bianca stood in the center of the room, a fierce smile on her lips. "Our team is finally ready to counterattack." No more disorder or doubt, only one goal remained: reclaim the flag. The whole group stepped out of the shadows, heading straight toward the blazing battlefield. "We will take back that flag." At the defensive line, the remaining warriors gripped their weapons tightly, shouting, "Hold the defense firmly!" The fire reflected in each eye. Reborn from defeat, they fought not just to win, but to prove that team spirit can turn any game around. As the battle entered the second half, the red team quickly stabilized their formation, returning to the front line as if there had been no interruption. On the battlefield, tactical commands rang out rapidly. "Freya, hold the occupied zone." The order was clear with no hesitation. "Plan F, everyone clear." Team coordination had reached a seamless level. "Clear." The unanimous response echoed. Each member held their position, moving according to the set strategy. Lycoris and her teammates acted immediately. "Lycoris, come with me. Use knockback attacks to block their path." There was no room for doubt. This was not just a game match, but a matter of honor, redemption, and the burning desire to prove themselves. This time, they fought as a true team. The Skyrunners reenacted their old tactic, neutralizing the knockback with the Iron Heart skill activated in an instant. Everything seemed like a repeat of the initial assault, but Little Beach wouldn't let things pass easily. She launched a delayed knockback attack, a calculated strike timed to pierce through the moment the neutralizing skill expired. The red team's only hope now was to prevent the enemy from entering the occupied zone. At the same time, the commander ordered, "Tara's van." The warriors responded immediately, shields ready, and the formation began to counterattack. Once again, the Skyrunners activated Iron Heart, the second knockback nullification skill triggered without hesitation. The red team's counterattack was completely anticipated, as the opponent had prepared from the previous assault. 3 knockback skills were no longer a surprise, and the Skyrunners' coordination was now chillingly precise. They surged past the red team's front, charging straight into the occupied zone. Faced with such speed and sharp tactics, the red team's defense seemed to vanish entirely, and in a flash, the Skyrunners had seized the critical area. There was no way to stop them. The red team found themselves in a tough spot after the Skyrunners broke through the front line and captured the key area. Under relentless pressure, the team leader launched a new strategy. This time, they would use all remaining buffs. Members received clear orders: synchronize skills, avoid rushing activation, and prioritize holding the occupied zone firmly. The enemy had thick armor but weak firepower. The key was to maintain position and avoid critical hits. The shield-bearing girl hesitated, but the decisive coordination among teammates confirmed one thing: the red team was not ready to give up. The Skyrunners were not just a wall, but also pushing machines with calculated close combat tactics. While the defenders were still focused on firepower and defense, the attackers shifted to a physical strategy, using heavy shields and armor to shove opponents out of the occupied zone. A red team member quickly realized this was no longer a skilled duel, but an American-style test of strength, a true football match where every step backward meant a lost point. Under mechanical pressure from the Skyrunners' formation, control of the zone was gradually tipping toward the enemy. A red team member decided to intervene, drawing a gun to regain control. But against thick armor and massive buffs, all damage seemed meaningless. She realized you can't take down a tank when it's fully buffed. The red team was cornered as their control time dwindled. The enemy had established solid control, while powerful attacks and debuffs were about to strike. In this critical moment, the captain quickly ordered a reuse of the old tactic, and Little Beach agreed to cooperate. The whole team immediately took their positions, preparing to launch a desperate final counterattack. Although the red team pushed the enemy back, the victory meant little as the opponent had gained an additional 5 seconds of control. With only 16 seconds left on the clock, the team quickly realized the enemy's strategy: rush in, buff up, capture a few seconds, then retreat when the effect expired. Repeat this 4 more times and the red team would lose. As worry spread, all eyes turned to the strategist. The last hope now rested on the IGL. Frey stood silently amid the pressure of time and looming defeat. She wondered whether to attack while the enemy was on cooldown, but the risk of exposing their base was too great. Her thoughts turned to Krim, the usual ace, but this time she decided. She couldn't keep relying on others. If she wanted to win, she had to become an unstoppable force against the immobile enemy. The Skyrunners continued their dominance, each coordinated assault rapidly reducing the red team's control time. Every attack pushed them closer to defeat. Luochair and Waltzing Grave held their ground, but the siege tightened. 12 seconds, 8, 5, they were completely overwhelmed. All signs pointed to one outcome: the red team had run out of time, options, and chances to fight back. Lycoris chased after the retreating enemy despite warnings from her teammates. While the Skyrunners quickly reorganized on the mountainside, she was alone in pursuit and fell into a preset enemy trap. The atmosphere suddenly darkened, causing temporary chaos. Disoriented and panicked because she couldn't see anything, Lycoris realized she had walked into an ambush. The enemy was clearly very familiar with this map, using the terrain to counterattack from the shadows. While the red team's defense struggled against the relentless tactics, the Skyrunners grew complacent and overconfident. They believed victory was already in their hands, even mocking their opponents and taking a semi-final spot for granted. However, during the next strategy discussion, one member noticed a weakness in their formation: a lack of firepower and difficulty breaking through without surprise. They admitted that stalling tactics were unsustainable and risked prolonging the unfavorable situation. Despite their advantage, the Skyrunners began to worry about being drawn into a stalemate. On the Skyrunners' side, confidence in victory had peaked. They took the initiative to attack, choosing the decisive moment to pressure their opponents. One member asserted that even if buffs expired, next time they would not retreat. With only 5 seconds left, they precisely calculated the flag's appearance and were certain one of them would secure the win. Every strategy was aimed at the final finishing move, demonstrating absolute decisiveness and confidence. Cornered with only 5 seconds left on the clock, Frey's group had not completely lost spirit. While some showed signs of giving up, believing they had done their best and should enjoy the match, others still fought to maintain their will to win. Amid a tense yet sarcastic atmosphere, teammates urged Frey, renowned for her planning skills, to come up with a way to turn the tide. The game was not over yet, and everyone awaited one last move from their strategist. Under a torn tarp from the battle, a red team member sat quietly, deep in thought. The match might have been more enjoyable if Bianca had joined them. The teammate above recalled when the team received news of Hinajiku's death. From that moment, Bianca seemed to lose spirit and fall into despair. He wondered if she still truly wanted to win. Then something suddenly appeared in his sight, causing him to stop speaking. "Is that?" The unfinished question hinted at an impending turning point. From the foot of the mountain, a frantic shout echoed urgently. "Abort the plan! Abort immediately!" A member hurriedly relayed the message up the slope, mistakenly calling a teammate's name in the rush. "Bianca is determined to win," he yelled, his face tense. "She and that bounty hunter are now on good terms." Those words shocked the entire team. This was the 4th time the plan had been canceled, but this time for an unexpected reason: Bianca's change. Above, a bunny-eared girl widened her eyes in disbelief. Really?" The fire in everyone's hearts seemed reignited. The whole team couldn't believe their ears. "Really? She?" Suspicious glances turned toward the news just received, but there was no time for doubt. The enemy could act at any moment. Someone asked, "Did Skyrun spot you on the way here?" "No, I don't think so," a command voice rang out. "Takabana, you're the tank, right? Then get serious from now on." The next order came immediately. "Stay hidden, then circle around from the other side." "Got it." They were on the brink of defeat. "We can't take them all down," the voice lowered, "but maybe there's still a way." To eliminate the entire Skyrunners team, they needed more tankers. The protagonist made a decisive decision. "Lycoris, Little Beach, you two will start tanking from now on." While skillfully keeping herself safe, "I, of course, will stay back for safety." The order was given, and the 2 girls' eyes showed clear surprise and astonishment. The battle shifted, the formation changed. End of Chapter 78. Plan F was activated in a situation with only 5 decisive seconds left. The red team members quickly rappelled down to the enemy base, steadily closing in on their sole objective: capture the flag and end the match. Meanwhile, Little Beach, now playing the tank role, focused intensely, shouting the slogan, "One last push to end it," to show determination not to let this opportunity slip away. In the stands, the audience was stunned by Bianca's changed attitude. Once indifferent to the outcome, she had now become the team's morale leader. Everyone clearly felt the moment of life or death had arrived. The final clash between the red team and the Skyrunners officially began. On the battlefield, the Skyrunners continued using their old tactic, a spread-out formation advancing head-on. A knockback strike was launched to break the front line. However, the red team was well prepared. The order was given, "Pop all your defense buffs." Everyone immediately activated their defensive skills. Tankers like Lycoris and Little Beach raised their shields high, taking turns absorbing blows in rhythm. The whole team responded in unison, their fighting spirit soaring. The battle had reached a do-or-die moment. No one was allowed to falter. As the red team simultaneously activated their defense buffs to hold firm against the full-force attack, a strange figure suddenly emerged from the shadows, shocking the entire team. He was a tanker who had once been a key attacker for the Skyrunners. Their presence here was completely unexpected. Lycoris immediately recognized him and panicked, while Little Beach wondered if using all their defense buffs was wise. The team began doubting the current situation. Had Krim, their main warrior, been defeated by the Black Rabbits? Could this be the sole survivor? The flood of questions, anxious speculation, and the unusual presence shook both the front line and the team's confidence, right at this critical moment. The final assault descended into chaos as the red team realized the enemy might have reinforcements hiding nearby. One member called for caution, suggesting a retreat to avoid surprises, but no additional enemies appeared. Hesitation crept among the teammates, but then a decisive shout rang out. "Only 5 seconds left. Keep pushing forward." No one was allowed to step back now. The enemy, with fanatic eyes, activated their ultimate skill, Iron Heart, turning themselves into an unshakable living wall. The battle had reached its brink, and a single blink could determine victory or defeat. The all-out clash between the two teams erupted fiercely on the icy battlefield, where the red team, with overwhelming firepower, charged relentlessly but remained vulnerable due to a lack of solid shielding, while the Skyrunners erected an almost impregnable defensive wall but lacked effective counterattacks. Desperate cries for help echoed continuously, demanding urgent healing. Members hurriedly used potions and support skills like Divine Heal to keep their teammates alive. With no way back, the two teams collided head-on, every passing second marking the thin line between victory and defeat, where every strategy, skill, and spirit was pushed to the absolute limit. The prolonged battle turned into a true test of endurance as both sides exhausted their resources and willpower. Every strike and every step backward could signal the beginning of collapse. When Tachibana's Iron Heart skill expired, the red team's strongest shield began to crack, while on the other side, the presence of a healer seemed to give the Skyrunners the upper hand. A desperate shout rang out from the defensive line. "I can't hold on any longer." Endurance had reached its limit. Frey immediately took command, calling for a full assault. "All 4 of you focus your strength," emphasizing that this was the turning point. One by one, they charged into the occupied zone, with time and hope running out to just a handful of seconds. In a breathlessly tense moment, the battle turned into a pure rugby-style push, where neither side used skills but relied solely on brute force to gain every inch of ground. Tankers from both teams shouldered each other, raised their shields, and shouted the slogan, "Heave-ho!" in a desperate effort to shove each other out of the occupied zone. Meanwhile, the Skyrunners began to stagger as a debuff prevented them from concentrating their force to break through the front line. Though they reassured themselves they had the numbers, uncertainty crept into their formation. Observers signaled the balance break status, a state of imbalance that could reverse the situation in an instant. The countdown clock was clear, only 5 seconds left, and any mistake now would mean permanent defeat. With only 5 seconds remaining, both teams fiercely struggled, neither able to advance even half a step. The red team stubbornly held their ground, while the Skyrunners were gradually pushed back as their defensive buffs neared exhaustion. In the stands, spectators erupted with excitement, realizing this time would be different from before because the red team had learned to endure to the very end. A sharp observation rang out. If the Skyrunners wasted all their buffs without securing the control zone, they would become weak, easily crushed tofu tanks. In a panic, a Skyrunner's member shouted desperately that they couldn't afford to lose these final 5 seconds, because it was the line between victory and defeat, between glory and collapse. As the clock still showed the last 5 seconds, both teams realized the stalemate meant they couldn't maintain their previous strategies. A new order immediately came from the rear. Plan K, Formation A1, target the mage. A swift tactical shift aimed at eliminating the enemy's healer. Meanwhile, the Skyrunners reassessed their goal, deciding not to waste healing now, but to concentrate all their strength on the upcoming counterattack. A powerful skill called Eisenblitz was unleashed, signaling a lightning-fast charge. Everyone understood clearly. Just taking down one key player would instantly turn the tide, and next time the flag would surely be theirs. Though this battle was not yet decided, the spirit and strategy for the next fight had been forged in these final 5 seconds. The situation suddenly changed when the Skyrunners abandoned their flag capture tactic and switched to a direct assault aimed at eliminating the opponent. Bianca frantically warned Frey upon realizing the enemy was targeting critical weak points, especially their team's healing mage, who was unable to react quickly to high-speed attacks. The enemy swiftly deployed a formation of 4 heavy tankers, fully aware that the mage was the most fragile link, weak defense and slow movement. With overwhelming momentum and numbers, they charged like giant spears, roaring their battle cry. Even as tankers, the 4 of us are enough to crush you in an instant. The shield became a weapon, resilience turned into a tool of destruction. And at that moment, all their force was focused on the lone target standing behind her teammates. Just as the 4 tankers surged toward the mage, a sudden trap was triggered. The ground exploded with crackling electricity, and a massive control circle instantly enveloped the area. All enemies were abruptly frozen in place, unable to move, panicking and shouting, "I can't move! Is this a wide area paralysis effect?" It turned out to be a self-activated pod planted beforehand. Some Skyrunners immediately realized they had been baited. The mage had deliberately separated to lure them into the trap. Yet they remained confident. One quickly countered with the skill refresh, removing the debuff and defiantly declaring, "No big deal, not slowing me down a bit." Amid the roaring thunder, both sides entered a battle of wits and strength, where a single wrong move could collapse everything in an instant. Just one moment, exactly as Frey predicted, was enough to reverse the situation. While the Skyrunners' tankers were trapped in the paralysis zone, a shadow suddenly dashed in from behind at lightning speed. He was none other than the deadly assassin who had been hiding all along, delivering a lethal strike straight to the opponent's backs. All 4 tankers were ambushed completely off guard, accompanied by a sharp laugh and a scornful taunt. "You short, stupid otaku! Do you really like playing robot that much?" A blow that not only humiliated but shattered the enemy's defensive formation. A Skyrunner's member reacted in panic, but it was too late. They had truly fallen into the trap, and the price was extremely high. The surprise attack not only stunned the Skyrunners, tankers, but also pushed the entire group down a deep cliff. The truth was revealed. The mage had deliberately acted as bait, sacrificing herself to lure all the enemies into following and being eliminated from the control zone. But the Skyrunners quickly bounced back, not despairing. They had prepared 2 grappling devices in advance, using the skill Air Ride to cling to the cliff face and rebound into the battlefield at incredible speed. One of them shouted in anger, "You fell off the cliff for nothing." They were not so easily eliminated. Despite the bold sacrifice plan nearly succeeding, the red team still faced reality. The flag was not yet theirs, and those who had fallen were returning, faster and more dangerous than ever. As the enemies who seemed to have been pushed off the battlefield began to return, the red team was forced to make their final move. In the decisive moment, Bianca leapt into the air, loudly calling Frey's name, as if to confirm that everything was going according to plan. A daring toss placed Lycoris into the critical position, the chosen one to complete the final step. All eyes followed her, carrying the team's last hope. With no way back and no time to hesitate, the battle now depended solely on Lycoris, entrusted with the responsibility to secure the victory flag. Hidden beneath a layer of camouflage fabric, the mysterious sniper finally took position, gripping the scope with cold calmness. With a precise shot, they targeted the anchor rope that the Skyrunners had set up to return, completely cutting off their retreat. "Last time you pushed us down, this time I'm paying you back in full." The quiet words struck like a blade deep into the enemy's pride. As the bullets fired, the rope snapped, and the entire Skyrunners group plummeted into the deep water below. A massive whirlpool appeared, dragging them into chaotic waters with no way back. The outcome was sealed, a perfect counterattack, cold, ruthless, and decisive. The giant canvas that once covered the entire arena now became an unexpected tactical tool when it was activated to cover the area again, slowing the Skyrunners, swimming escape as they fell into the water. One of them shouted in fury upon realizing, "She shot the anchor rope from that far away." A skillful shot that not only broke the technical setup, but also triggered strategic consequences. The massive canvas descended like a trap, slowing all enemy movements and preventing them from returning to the battlefield before time ran out. In despair, a member muttered, "They're just stalling to make us late." And indeed, every second now was a deadly weapon. Caught in the chaotic waters beneath the giant tarp, the Skyrunners fell into complete disarray. Some lost their spears, others dropped their weapons, all struggling to swim amid the pitch-black darkness and wet fabric like chains tightening around them. While teammates panicked and screamed, one member remained calm enough to shout a warning. "Stay calm, we're dwarves, we have infrared." But the reminder did little to improve the situation, as fear overwhelmed reason. That person realized they could no longer rely on anyone and had to fend for themselves. Just as they reached for a spear lying on the bottom, a strange sound arose underwater, a crackling electric noise accompanied by vibrations. An instinctive warning. Something else was moving in the darkness, and time was running out for anyone still trapped at the bottom. Standing on the shore with a triumphant smile and fiery eyes, Bianca looked down at the struggling Skyrunners in the water and coldly taunted, "How's the swim down there, you bunch of ducks?" While the enemies panicked from lost buffs and lack of defense, she smoothly prepared to deliver the finishing blow. One of them realized the truth too late. This had been the plan from the start. Force the enemy into the water, split their formation, then strike the killing blow when they were weakest. "This plan is perfect, and I even get to kill you myself, Tilda." Bianca laughed while tightening her resolve, and Frey's trusting gaze confirmed. This was the victory they deserved. Chapter 79 closed with the red team fully in control, ready to deliver the final blow to the former arena dominators. Chapter 80 opens with a decisive strike called Hydro Crash. Unleashed right in the middle of the Skyrunners, formation trapped underwater, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Even knowing it would hit their own teammates as well, Red Team refused to hold back. Time was running out and the objective was clear. An opposing member shouted, "Kill both enemies and allies, is that really the plan?" But the protest wasn't enough to stop the next lightning strike, which crushed the panicked group suffering from a new debuff. Worse yet, Red Team's strategy had accounted for forcing the enemy to exhaust their refresh skills early. Now truly debuffed, all were still on cooldown. A barrage of ranged shots thundered down like rolling thunder, and while the Skyrunners hurriedly checked their retreat devices, the answer came, "No, all four are still on cooldown." This time, there was no chance to escape. In a terrifying explosion of power, the lightning strike that had been building since the end of the previous chapter slammed into the ground with devastating force. Giant bolts tore through the air, exploding the water and earth, sweeping away everything within its radius. This was no longer an attack. It was a death sentence for those trapped below, without buffs, unable to move or resist. The aftershocks reached the cliffs and the arena's canopy, shaking the entire scene. A conclusion foretold by countless tactical calculations. And now, with raw brute strength, Red Team had sealed the match in an overwhelmingly dominant fashion. Amidst the rain of lightning that fell like a verdict, a Skyrunners member was officially eliminated. The cold words HP, dead, appeared on the interface. Bianca's eyes lit up with delight at the result, a smug smile spreading across her face. "One's gone to the scrap heap, Tilda, who's next?" Her words cut like a knife into those struggling to flee in chaos. Below, the enemy formation was paralyzed and scattered, unable to recover, lost amid the thick water, mud, and debris. One of them shouted, "No more healing, retreat even if we have to walk." But everyone knew the escape route was blocked. Red Team's strike was not only powerful, it was utterly destructive, leaving the enemy no chance to regroup or counterattack. In the chaotic waters surrounded by electric fire, a Red Team member surged forward with unshakable determination. "I won't let anyone touch Krim-chan," her eyes blazing amid the splashing foam like a living shield ready to sacrifice herself. At the same time, the others braced themselves to fight back, despite being called unfair. "Sorry, but we will win at all costs." This was no longer a battle for honor, but to right past wrongs. They knew well that Krim had suffered many sacrifices, and this victory was the only way to make amends. In the fierce flow of action, the enemy gradually lost composure, trapped in the water and disabled. Amid the whirlwind of battle, someone silently thought, "She must be the one regretting the most right now." an unspoken acknowledgement that this victory was not just skill, but the burden of choice. In the waterlogged chaos, a fateful moment arrived when a powerful water attack struck the female warrior protecting her teammates, causing her to scream in pain. Her face twisted in agony and immense pressure, while her shield, the last symbol of defense, shattered under the blow's weight. Across the way, the attacker stood arrogantly, a sinister smile declaring victory on their lips. Their gaze was cold and contemptuous, as if the act of destroying the enemy's allies was mere entertainment. Without any dialogue, this scene said it all. An irreversible outcome was coming, and Red Team had completely taken control of the battlefield through ruthless strategy and overwhelming power. A desperate moment, as teammates fell one by one and the dead-end icon covered the system screen, the last survivor of the Skyrunners, Lycoris, silently gazed toward the water where the enemy still stood firm. The water rose past her chest, blurring her vision, and she bitterly admitted, "I can't win the way Krim did." Her words were not complaints, but stark truth. Victory demanded more than strength. It required strategy, comrades, and a freedom of thought she had underestimated. While Freya from Red Team delivered a sarcastic praise, the other remained silent, accepting defeat with head held high, not out of personal pride, but because now she truly understood what a comprehensive battle meant. This loss was not just the end of a round, but the beginning of a new perspective, where she knew she must change if she wanted to move forward with those she cherished. After a series of overwhelming attacks and clever tactics that threw the opposing team into chaos, the long-haired girl, a key member of Red Team, turned around with a calm gaze. Amid the quiet atmosphere, with only the crackling echoes of lightning on the flooded battlefield, she spoke softly but coldly. "Need me to fire one more shot?" The opponent trembled, sweating, eyes full of fear. Noticing this reaction, she merely smirked, her body glowing brilliantly like a declaration of victory. "Looks like there's no need." Her tone both arrogant and satisfied, as if the battle had never worried her. That absolute confidence didn't come from strength, but from having read every move of the enemy. In a brief lull during the battle, the girl wearing the bunny hat thought fearfully to herself, "They left me with the scariest one." Sweat poured down her forehead as she tried to stay calm. On the other side, her opponent, a sharp female warrior, looked straight at her and said briefly, "Now there are only 2 left." Then she turned away, signaling, "I'll regroup with the team, you keep an eye on the flag." The small girl timidly replied, "Okay." Meanwhile, a robot lightly scolded another member for not using the sniper rifle sooner, to which the other just bowed their head and muttered, I had my reasons." When asked about their chances of winning, the girl in the hood silently looked toward the horizon and said, "Doesn't it all depend on how badly they want to win?" The tense atmosphere eased, but only like the calm before the final storm. From the top of the rugged cliff, the group of 3 observed the fortress below where the flag fluttered atop the tower. One pointed out clearly, "The only entrance is that main gate." Another added coldly, "The first thing we need to do is get past those walls." The girl with the flower-tied hair nodded in agreement, a rare gesture that made the teammate beside her sigh and sarcastically remark, "Standing shoulder to shoulder with her, hell must have frozen over." She just glanced lightly, while another nearby exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, that's the first time all day we've agreed on something." As the 2 bantered casually, the third member standing between them spoke up, sounding annoyed. "You 2 do know I'm here too, right?" Ending Chapter 80 on a lightly sarcastic note amid the tense situation. 15 minutes ago, from the top of the high cliff, the group silently gazed down at the fortified stronghold, where the enemy's flag fluttered atop the tall tower within the surrounding walls. Someone pointed and said, "That's the flag up there, right?" Another remarked, "At first glance, the main gate seems to be the only entrance, but there must be other ways to infiltrate." The atmosphere was tense, and an irritated voice snapped, "If we lose just because of Little Beach's throw, we'll be a laughingstock." Takebana was about to respond, but was cut off. "Without me, you're down to 3 against 5. The order came, "Takebana, fall back and coordinate the defense." She nodded silently, not arguing. This battle, every position was a strategic move. Even missing one member, the group remained calm, weighing their options. The long-nosed guy spoke first. "Without you, we still have a few plans." The long-haired girl sneered lightly. "You're just the one running around causing trouble like those MPK moves." He shot back a glare. "Very funny." The masked bird stepped forward decisively. "So what's the plan?" The final question rang out cold and firm from the spear-wielding girl. "Capture the flag or wipe them all out." The air froze, as victory could be decided by blood or strategy. From the observation tower, 2 Black Rabbit team members discussed strategy. One asked if the opposing side was regrouping their defenses. The other shrugged, saying it was possible but didn't rule out that they might choose to attack instead of retreat. With Skyrun's speed, if things went south, they could withdraw quickly. However, both agreed it was better to prepare for a surprise attack rather than expect the enemy to play it safe. Finally, a question sounded like a warning. How do you think they'll attack? The tension thickened, a silent moment before the storm. The Black Rabbit team members stood atop the tall tower, confident they had established a perfect defense system with a panoramic view of the entire area. A confident rabbit girl asserted, "We have eyes everywhere." However, just as another girl mentioned focusing on the main gate, a series of flares tore through the sky Leona's signal. The enemy had appeared, advancing from the south-southeast. No longer a guess, the battle had officially begun. Two girls appeared right in front of the main gate, immediately triggering the defense team's alarm. The Black Rabbit members recognized them as the two who had fiercely argued before, an unlikely pair to cooperate. This made them suspicious. Was it a trick, or had they truly reconciled? One member worried that if the blonde girl turned against them, it would be a 3-against-1 situation. Meanwhile, the two male enemy members had yet to appear, possibly hiding somewhere. The Black Rabbit team decided to observe the situation carefully before acting. The two rabbit girls on guard above teased with a playful greeting. "Yo, you two made up," one of the girls below immediately replied awkwardly. "Well, no." The answer froze the atmosphere in an instant, revealing that the tension between them was far from resolved, and this could spark an unexpected turn of events. When asked if they had made peace, the bright-haired girl replied sarcastically, "Is making peace something friends do?" Immediately the other coldly concluded, "We're definitely not friends." The harsh words also showed a strange rapport between them, a reluctant alliance, ready to cooperate only for a common goal, not out of affection. The two sides clashed head-on. As Lycoris and Frey's group charged forward, the enemy's bunny-eared girl laughed excitedly, saying this fight would be much more fun. Seeing Lycoris's weapon, she smirked provocatively, mocking, "Nice weapon, but are you sure you can handle it?" The confrontation between the two sides had officially begun. Lycoris charged with a powerful strike from her giant scythe, catching her opponent off guard with her speed beyond expectations. Despite the surprise, the opponent quickly realized Lycoris had invested heavily in strength stats, but judged the scythe as just a large, easy-to-dodge target. With that in mind, she stayed calm, thinking there was no need to worry too much, even though Lycoris was clearly pressing in with formidable force. The two opponents began analyzing the situation. Lycoris with her scythe was a close-range threat, but less dangerous than Krim, who had yet to use her gun. She lacked motivation in their previous encounter, leading the enemy to suspect Krim might be deliberately holding back. Noticing their fighting styles clashed poorly against fast-striking weapons, they decided on a familiar tactic: eliminate the ranged weapon user first. One of them immediately charged, declaring they would crush the weaker one, implying Lycoris was the initial target. The confrontation officially began with a surprise kick, but Lycoris reacted in a flash. She spun her scythe with incredible agility, striking directly at the opponent's leg, causing one enemy to scream in pain. "My leg!" Meanwhile, the other hadn't fully reacted, only managing a terrified wait, before the tide turned decisively in Lycoris's favor. Krim skillfully exploited the opponent's underestimation, turning her seemingly harmless scythe into a decisive weapon. While Neon was held back, she calmly recalled the ironic past of this weapon, a joke that was about to become a real nightmare. When the lethal piercing skill activated, Krim's cold gaze and faint smile revealed she had planned this moment long ago. No fanfare was needed. She only waited for the enemy to drop their guard completely, then struck. Krim acted without hesitation, issuing a firm command. "Start with the weakest." She locked onto her target and fired simultaneously as the opposing teammate, Lies, lost her balance. The precise coordination turned the clash into a tactical execution. A deadly reversal was unfolding, and Krim left no chance for anyone to react. Neon accepted the hit to hold her position, dodging a fatal blow by instinct and reflex. She took the full strike, her HP dropping sharply, but managed to deliver a high kick as a reflex. The fight turned into a battle of damage versus daring, where every second meant survival. Krim suddenly burst forward across the battlefield, using Neon's kick to boost her momentum, transforming the opportunity into a lightning-fast counterattack. The enemy barely understood what happened before being overwhelmed. Her power and speed rendered all reactions useless. She flipped the game in an instant, pushing the entire situation into a suffocating chokehold. Krim unleashed a decisive move. A spinning strike combined with the force of her scythe blasted the enemy away in a terrifying whirlwind of magical power. Every motion was wrapped in cold lethality, a single blow with the strength to crush the entire battle. Lies was thrown back, losing both legs in the blink of an eye. Neon called out to her anxiously but received a calm reminder. First, grow your legs back and don't cry. After the swift counterattack, Krim declared it was time to get serious. The dramatic turnaround stunned the entire audience. The Black Rabbit group was gradually shifting the tide. The two girls stood proudly amid the ruined arena, dust swirling around them as if highlighting the dominance of an overwhelming victory. In the stands, a couple watching the fight were stunned by Krim and Lai's sudden explosion of power. The battlefield had turned, the echoes of the counterattack still resonating. Chapter 81 ended under the disbelief of everyone's eyes. Krim and Neon appeared on the big screen as the battle entered Chapter 82. Neon was carrying Lies, who had just been cut off both legs, trying to get her to safety while the commentator noted this was an opportunity the enemy side wouldn't miss. The opponent mocked Krim for his achievement of chopping off legs, saying the term headhunter might now become leg lover. But Krim kept a cold gaze and sharply retorted, "The target is the neck, not the legs." Initial contempt turned into caution as they realized they had triggered the true fury of the rabbit hunter. In a critical moment, Neon didn't hesitate to throw Lies, who had lost both legs, over the fortress wall to help her escape. The throw surprised everyone, including the enemy. Leona was called out as she flew in to catch Lies, but at that moment a precise shot hit the wall, marking the enemy's intervention. A hit sound rang out along with a satisfied smile. The ambush successfully blocked the near-perfect escape. Lies laughed excitedly with her newly healed legs, boasting that now she could kiss even the moon-faced rabbit with that spring. She thanked Leona for the excellent supportive shot and didn't forget to send her regards to Neon, the one who threw her over the wall. Leona smiled gently, subtly reminding them to stand closer next time for easier handling. Meanwhile, the enemy group from afar began to realize they were facing a long-range healer who could heal across terrain, an advantage not to be underestimated. After the initial surprise, the opposing group learned their lesson. Krim and his teammates now clearly knew the healer's location on the blue side. She was on the roof of a tall building within a walled area. With the height and favorable shooting angle, anyone on the team just had to jump up to receive instant healing. Krim frowned, understanding that if this continued, the enemy would be immortal in the fight. She coldly concluded, "We have to take out the healer first." The next target was clear. Krim unleashed the scythe move, Azrael's ring, with extreme spin force, cutting across the battlefield and shaking the ground. However, Neon and Lies reacted in time and easily dodged. With a mocking smile, Neon teased the opponent for such a blatant attack. Just then, Krim suddenly spotted Lies inside the gate, revealing a chance to counterattack before the enemy could react. Krim and Bianca suddenly bypassed the opponent in front, their eyes fixed on the rooftop where Leona was guarding. They shifted tactics, planning to ambush the healing line from above. But the opposing team didn't stand still. Neon and Lies immediately counterattacked to block their advance. Meanwhile, Leona quickly realized she was the target, hesitating between providing long-range support or retreating before the enemy infiltrated the structure. The tense match was about to enter its decisive phase. Krim and Bianca were determined to chase Leona to the end, quickly redirecting toward a door leading to the rooftop. However, Neon and Lies' speed left them behind. As the two sides raced to gain positional advantage, an unexpected trap was triggered. The door they intended to use was blocked, breaking their plan to approach the target. Krim muttered sarcastically, the surprise turning into frustration. The battle suddenly fell into a stalemate. The noise inside the fortress caught the attention of the two remaining members. One of them, looking worried, asked Luce about the situation. The girl quickly reported that Lies was handling the two intruders well. However, the whereabouts of the two male opponents remained unknown. The hesitation between supporting or keeping watch continued until something unusual appeared in his view. An enemy member suddenly appeared but acted as if deliberately revealing himself. The white-haired boy suspected it might be a trap, but with a 2-on-1 advantage, he and Luce could quickly deal with it. Despite concerns about protecting the tower, he trusted Leona and called Luce in to assist, ready for the next attack. The battle turned as the Black Rabbit group perfectly utilized the indoor terrain to maximize their mobility advantage. Krim and Bianca were pushed into a defensive stance, continuously fending off attacks from all directions. The enemy's unpredictable agility, combined with wall and ceiling skills, made their strikes three-dimensional, breaking the entire rhythm of their responses. Neon dashed down from above like a living bullet, delivering a punch straight to the opponent's face before he could react. The lightning-fast attack left Krim only able to gasp in shock before completely losing the upper hand. The Black Rabbit group's absolute initiative was pushing the enemy to the brink of collapse. Neon didn't miss the opportunity. She delivered a direct kick to Bianca's face, forcing the opponent off guard and taking the full hit. Krim immediately shouted for his teammates, but it was too late. Bianca had fallen. With a cold glare, Neon declared control. "You have no place here." The atmosphere of the match reversed in an instant. Neon and her teammates delivered a decisive blow from two directions, collapsing Bianca's last line of defense. The aftershock spread fiercely, burying the enemy in a storm of light. In that paralyzing moment, Bianca admitted defeat. "She's right, I never belonged here." HP dropped to the final number. The battle had been decided. Krim threw all his strength into overturning the bookshelf toward the opponent, creating a chaotic landslide of dust and debris. The rabbits were caught off guard, recoiling in surprise. Neon cursed, barely understanding what was happening before everything was buried under books and wood fragments. Seizing that moment, Krim and Bianca vanished from the enemy's sight. The battle shifted in utter chaos. Neon had just escaped the room when a sudden warning came from behind. An attack struck at that moment, nearly taking her down. But thanks to quick reflexes, neither side lost anyone. The skirmish ended in a stalemate. As the audience watched anxiously, the commentators began offering sharp, sarcastic remarks about the ninth-ranked team's tactics and performance. The match continued to drag on tensely. After escaping the danger, Bianca was still dazed. Krim calmly assessed the situation and quickly gave instructions. Drink a healing potion in 3 seconds. Both noticed the enemy wasn't pursuing, possibly due to Headsman's feint working effectively. Checking the map, they confirmed they had reached the bell tower courtyard but couldn't get onto the roof yet. Between attacking the flag or striking the enemy's rear line, the choice now felt like a coin toss. However, with the tower's defense withdrawn, a new counterattack opportunity opened for them. Though initially harsh in words, Krim acknowledged the opponent's quick reactions and combat skills. However, that didn't change the Black Rabbit group's resolve. They chose to ascend the roof to heal from Leona and prepare an ambush from the tower. With a determined gaze and weighty tone, Krim affirmed the Black Rabbit group would not lose this match, and they would prove who they truly were. Chapter 82 ended with a blazing spirit of counterattack.